I'm feeling a major sense of deja vu. 2 years ago, we were in the same exact place we are now. Nintendo Direct. The 12th of April, 2017. Bam! Kirby's 25th anniversary. Team Kirby Clash Deluxe is revealed, and Shadow dropped that same day. Well, hey, alright, an upgraded version of the Team Kirby Clash game that was in Planet Robobot. It tries out that whole free-to-start model too, and why not continue to use the pink puffball guinea pig to try something new? It was alright. Also, remember when they teased a multiplayer action game for the 3DS and I thought it was gonna be Amazing Mirror 2? Ah, that is what unbridled optimism looks like. And then we cut to the end of summer 2019 and another Nintendo Direct happened on September 4th, where they did the same exact thing. You know, I did think that we were a bit overdue for a Kirby spin-off, and in typical Nintendo Direct fashion, I made a little prediction stating that, hey, this was gonna be the time and place to announce one. And I was like the only person to do that, so that felt nice. It was at that same time that they also revealed what the anti-Kirbys were gonna look like in the Link's Awakening remake. That was pretty neat, and they even made a theme for Tetris 99. I can hardly contain my excitement. So now we have Super Kirby Clash for the Switch, set to more or less do the same exact thing as the 3DS game, just now on a big screen. Definitely not what I thought they were gonna do for the next HD Kirby game, but lo and behold, here we are. After the initial reveal, it didn't really seem like there was much originality with this one. Is this basically a port, or is there something else deep within? I mean, they brought Nightmare back. Didn't think they were just gonna throw that in as if it was nothing, but they did. And as humorous as it would be to literally just re-upload the old video with a new thumbnail and title attached to it, come on now, as if I wasn't gonna make a video on the new Kirby game. The story tells of an evil hornhead going on a rampage across the seaside. Go stop him. Okay, foolish me for expecting a bit more of a story in the console version. This time around, that's on me. I apologize. It's the same exact thing as before. And actually, paying attention to the dialogue, I really think this is not a sequel. There may be a line or two somewhere in the game that talks about the adventures of the previous game, but Bandana D treats you as if you're a brand new visitor. So we have a good old reboot, I guess? Which means that I think once again we have to continue acting as if this Magolor here is like different than the original one because he's wearing green instead and therefore is not a potential vessel for evil. Sure. After all that's done, we get to dive into the game, and it's all about going through a bunch of different battles across different lands, all in the vein of completing quests. Each one gives you a bunch of new items, you unlock some new gear at the in-game shops, and you get experience points thrown at you to level up your Kirby. Roundness increased by 3! Not that it matters. You watch your mouth. And you can do this with a group of 4 Kirbys of varying classes. There's Sword, Doctor, Hammer, and Mage. Each one has its own pros and cons, and a relatively wide moveset to handle the obstacles in a bunch of ways. Although Mage is far and away the best one of the bunch. The charge move that you can pull off not only does a lot of damage, but after enough hits, it just freezes the enemy in place for a while so everyone can do a ton more damage. Yeah, you want some easy tips on how to blaze through the game? Just do this. It makes the entire adventure a whole lot easier, and I still haven't decided if that's a good or bad thing yet. And then, yeah, just go and fight and keep doing that until the credits roll. And that's where the whole free to start stuff comes to play. You see, up at the top of the screen there, you have a vigor meter. Each battle takes up a certain amount of it, and unless you level up, which refills it, you gotta be prepared to wait because every single quest takes some of those points away. Later on in the game, they also cost apples to even open up in the first place. And while you can harvest apples after 12 hours, don't be surprised if you run low on that and vigor very, very quickly. Especially when the apples are also the currency to buy new items. I guess at that point, it sorta does fit that mobile game mentality. This isn't a game that you're meant to blast through, it's a game that's just there to last a couple of minutes by just popping it on, doing a mission, and then going back to your day. Or I have a problem. Listen, alright, let's be honest here. I already basically did all of this stuff. I mainly just wanted to see what's new here. I've already done my time. Don't judge me. I bought 5,000 gem apples in one foul swoop. With that, I bought a bunch of EXP upgrades and attack ups for days. I'm ready to go. As for that new stuff that I was really excited about, yeah, nothing. There's like next to nothing new in Super Kirby Clash that wasn't already in Team Kirby Clash Deluxe on the 3DS 2 years ago. To be honest with you, I'm kind of stunned. I mean, now there's an electric version of Bonkers. Cool. Like, it's kinda neat seeing elemental-based bosses having their elements swapped with something else, but, oh yeah, Nightmare! Okay, this part's pretty sick. You only encounter him a few times in the franchise, and if you don't count King Dedede in Kirby's Dream Land, he is the very first ever main creepy antagonist. I mean, look at that chin. That chin's pretty creepy. I know, technically, it's not Nightmare, it's Parallel Nightmare. Ooh, it's the same thing. And they remixed the boss battle theme as well. This is pretty cool. That's it, though? The final boss of the 3DS game, King D-Mind, returns, as does Taranza and a parallel form of Susie. There is a new creepier form of Kracko that's relatively interesting. Galactonite is back too. That's kind of cool. This time he's called Aeon Hero for some reason. Don't understand why they did that. He's even got a new skin. Cool. I know I'm really stretching here, but that's all I have to work with. Also, am I the only one that thinks that Galactonite as the secret final boss is getting pretty old? Yeah, we did have a bit of a fake out in Star Allies, but hey, it was close enough. Either add some more significant lore to this guy or just leave him in the sidelines. The big appeal of this version would have to be the local and online multiplayer with the party quests. It's kinda cool that you can play the game with others no matter where they are, and when you're not a psychopath like I am, it is a good way to level up some more at a reasonable pace. But this is Nintendo Online we're talking about here. Button lag and frame drops whenever the Switch feels like it, your mileage is gonna vary, etc, etc. It's Super Mario Maker 2 all over again. Honestly, this game is super disappointing. There was totally some potential here. The developers had 2 years to really do something neat in the transition to high definition. More returning bosses like Necrodius, more abilities to work with like Artist or even Sleep. They managed to make a moveset for it in Battle Royale, so why not? Oh, but they went ahead and changed the color of the magical girl outfit. Yeah, I got nothing. Though Kirby does look fabulous. They did add brand new super deluxe forms of all the gear, that wasn't in the original, but that just ends up requiring more grinding to be able to purchase them, which the game already has a ton of. At least the achievement system returns as well. The 3DS game had 256, definitely something that could take up a huge chunk of your time. As for Super, dear God! But the real kicker here, the game runs at 30 frames per second as opposed to Team Kirby Clash Deluxe running at 60. Now I've said this before, I am not a frame rate snob, and sure the Switch version does look better, but man, when both games play so similarly, this just feels like a downgrade. It's the same thing with Star Allies. Running at 30 wasn't really a problem, but coming from the higher frame rates of the 3DS games, it feels like a downgrade. Man, I did not expect Kirby's jump to HD was gonna be so bumpy. There is nothing new here. Maybe if you didn't play the game on 3DS, I could recommend this easier, and it is free to start, so I guess it couldn't really hurt to at least check it out. But man, this is the 3rd time now that they've gone ahead and made this game when you consider it did start off in Planet Robobot. The freshness is totally gone, and as a result, maybe I could recommend Team Kirby Clash Deluxe instead, just because it did it first. It is definitely time that we got some more originality in the Kirby franchise. You know, Star Allies became good after they added all the fan service in there, but I would say we haven't had anything overall awesome since 2016's Planet Robobot. I know I'm saying it a bunch in this episode, that's because that game was really, really good. And since then, yeah, we haven't really had a whole lot, and it's kind of upsetting. You know, fingers crossed for 2020, that may finally be the time we get something that's gonna really shake the foundation of what this franchise is all about. Kirby Fighters 2. You know, 1 week we're all relaxing, playing Super Mario 3D All-Stars, it's all fine and dandy, and then the next we witness Nintendo leak one of their own games, pretend like it didn't happen, and then randomly just release it the following night to like, no fanfare. Why? Why are you doing this to my boy? Randomly releasing a new game isn't too out of the ordinary for the pink puffball. Super Kirby Clash was revealed and released on the same day as well, but this? Man, the year 2020 keeps on delivering in the weirdest of ways. Nintendo leaks Kirby Fighters 2. I love it. Well, you all know the drill by now. A new Kirby game releases, I gotta talk about it. The Kirby guy here on YouTube hasn't really made Kirby content in about a year or so, so I'm well overdue as it is. But before we talk about Kirby Fighters 2, let's rewind the clock a little bit and talk about Kirby Fighters 1. Honestly, part of the shock behind Kirby Fighters 2 wasn't even just its sudden leak and release, but the fact that we're even getting a Fighters sequel in the first place. This entire side series started all the way back with a sub-game in the 3DS title Kirby Triple Deluxe. The initial Kirby Fighters was a pretty no-frills fighting game based around 10 different Kirby abilities and clearly had some very strong Super Smash Bros. Influences. It wasn't really that much deeper than that, but I guess as a side mode in a full-on Kirby game, it didn't really need to be. Well, when Nintendo decided to flesh things out with an entirely separate Fighters Deluxe on the 3DS's eShop, well, suddenly we have stronger expectations. More abilities, more stages, a slightly more fleshed out single player mode. It was all there and it was fine, but it was still missing that little something to take this game from good to great. And now we're here, Kirby Fighters 2 for the Switch. It's out here to answer two very specific questions that I don't believe anyone was even trying to ask before its existence. 1, how is this any different from the 3DS game? It looks exactly the same. And 2, is it even worth the $20 after the last Switch game, Super Kirby Clash, was free to play, and yet suckers like me spent twice that on stupid gem apples because I'm the Kirby guy on YouTube after all, who has to stop everything he's doing when a Kirby game releases out of nowhere to make content for it on the internet. I'm sorry, did I say that out loud? At its core, the gameplay is exactly the same as the previous entries were. Either solo or with a partner, you fight against other Kirbys from a whole lineup of different abilities, and this time around, totally different characters as well. In stages themed around locations from the entire series, and we got unlockables aplenty. Oh my god, there are so many things to unlock in this one. Though this is basically the same game, there are actually plenty of small additions here and there. 5 new abilities to choose from, including the brand new Wrestler Kirby. I like this one a whole lot. Look at him. Look at him in his little luchador mask. Here layeth the smacketh down. I love it. We never really get to see abilities debut in these side games, so this is pretty cool. It is just a slightly different take on the already existing suplex ability, which isn't in this game, but hey, he's got a mask on now, so it's way better. 5 full-on extra characters to play as, including Magolor. We're just gonna keep going on as if he did nothing wrong, cause he didn't. He's a good boy through and through. A handful of new battlefields, always nice to see, although now I really just want an HD port of Planet Robobot, thanks game. There's a new Buddy Star item that gives you this anime-styled finishing move. I approve of this wholeheartedly. And then like a million costumes, dude. Oh man, there are so many costumes for every ability, and they are better than they've ever been before. Santa Kirby, Cheerleader Kirby, Yo-Yo Gamer Kirby, Fishbowl. Alternate costumes has been a thing in a couple Kirby games thus far, but I gotta tell you, it has to be mandatory from here on out. I will not allow Sumo Kirby to only show up in this one game. All in all, these extra options are definitely appreciated, although we're still missing Smash Kirby. That seemed like a total given here. No Sleep Kirby though. I get it, nobody out there played Kirby Battle Royale, and now dozens of you are saying to yourselves, oh yeah, I forgot about Kirby Battle Royale. But that game gave Sleep Kirby a full-on offensive moveset, and damn it, I want to see it show up again. That's really funny. Other than that, yeah, the gameplay and combat is still pretty solid. Rather than adapting any of these movesets and abilities to feel like a proper fighting game, they really just play exactly as they do in the main games. A bit more complexity would have been nice, but by keeping things simple, it keeps things accessible, and way easier to pick up and play without getting too intense. Unless you go online. Yeah, we got online play this time around, something the last game was sorely missing. It's not flawless, there is some frame dipping here and there, but it works well enough to prove that when you're playing against actual people who know what they're doing and not just computer players, people can be really good at competitive Kirby games. That's nice to see. But thankfully, practicing and honing in your skills is a lot more satisfying this time around because the game finally runs at a smooth 60 frames per second Oh, thank goodness. I know I've said this multiple times already, but it really sucked going from the 3DS's 60 frames per second to the Switch's 30. I couldn't help but look at it as a downgrade. And now, 3.5 years into the Switch's life, we finally have Kirby in both HD and 60 frames per second, and it is about time too. Also worth noting, the training stage is actually returning from Kirby 64. We're itching closer and closer to answering yes to that second question. So yeah, I think we answered that first question just fine. There is definitely enough content here to justify the 2 at the end of the title. As for that second question, whether or not this is worth $20, I don't know, man. We spent more than that on the Smash Bros. Fighters Pass, and we didn't even know what was in it. The majority of your gameplay time will probably be in the new story mode. Wait, hold on. A story? Oh, okay, this is where the deep Kirby plot I signed up for is gonna be. Let's go. Reoccurring rivals King Dedede and Meta Knight have decided to team up once again to defeat Kirby, and so they send out a challenge to meet them atop the Buddy Fighters Tower. One slight little problem though, Kirby doesn't know how to read. Oh, this is my favorite thing. I'm really glad Kirby made it into Smash before the invitation started getting sent out. Poor Puffball would have had no idea. Alright, so go and stop them. Easy peasy. That's it. No evil demons, no ulterior motives. They want to be bad. Go and stop them. I mean, realistically, Kirby could have just avoided the invitation altogether and let them just sit on top of the tower alone for the rest of time. They had nothing that they were trying to do besides invite Kirby over, so I don't know, I think I just exposed a big plot hole in this story. I know Kirby games tend to have this really crazy lore deep within the game's stories, but for this one, from what I can tell at least, nah. This is all just a means to do a 2-player arcade mode. Each floor is a new battle, sometimes there's a modifier attached to them. Whenever you move up a floor, the HD rumble in the controller mimics footsteps like shockingly well, and yes, this is an important point. Occasionally there's a boss battle against some lesser bad guys, of course, Wispy Woods had to show up somewhere in this game. And of course you wrap things up by going against the combo of the King and the Knight. And it's pretty funny when you play story mode as King Dedede and Meta Knight. Trust nobody, not even yourself. The only real interesting thing that happens at the end of the hardest difficulty is that they throw on masks for the true final fight. No masked Dedede theme or anything super cool like that, it's just a fairly straightforward phase 2. I guess it's kinda disappointing, you know, most people expect Kirby to save the world by the end of every single game he's a part of, but it also saves me from screwing up by trying to explain Kirby lore like last time. I'm sorry, I didn't understand the implications of Galactonite and Super Kirby Clash, I apologize, I'll try to do better next time. Initially, I didn't think this mode would amount to that much, especially since, despite the story being to climb the tower, you start from floor 1 with each difficulty every time, despite already traversing it in a previous run. If we're trying to make it to the top, why would they succeed at floor 10 and jump back down to the bottom? That doesn't make sense. However, where things get more compelling is in between floors. Once you finish a battle, you get a selection of items to choose from to help you out along your quest, increasing your health or power, making your buddy more powerful if it's a CPU player, giving you more points that equate to your level, which means you get to unlock extras a lot faster, which include better items that enter the pool of options in between floors. These items only apply on your current run. The battles get genuinely difficult if you don't plan accordingly. Starting a fresh run means starting from scratch. Dying on the hardest difficulty wipes out your entire progress and you gotta start from the beginning. This is actually a roguelike? That's kinda awesome. Listen, I was already dedicated to get to level 100, but that is gonna take a lot of grinding to do. Every run I did of the hardest difficulty though was really engaging because I never really knew what items I'll get to work with along the way. Especially since a successful run managed to level me up a solid 10 ranks or so, thus throwing more items into the item rotation. This really feels like some bare bones roguelike mechanics, and that in a Kirby game, I never knew I wanted it until now, but it's pretty cool. Between the story mode and being able to play online, I would definitely say this is worth the $20 as well. This is easily the best the formula has been yet. There is an additional playstyle, single-handed mode, but this limits you to only playing alone, and the game is so unbelievably unbalanced when it comes to 2 or 3 opponents going against just you. This is not fun at all. And there's no compelling story. If there's no compelling story in a throwaway mode in my Kirby side game, then why should I care? Oh, because it's required to getting 100% completion. Fine. With that out of the way though, I can tell you, I will not be going back. Otherwise, when you're done with that mode, Kirby Fighters 2? yeah, it's a pretty good game. Really fun story mode, always appreciate local multiplayer games on my Switch, and hey, this is just the game at launch. This doesn't even count the upcoming DLC. Oh what, you didn't know about the DLC? Yeah, the eShop listing indicates that there will be in-game purchases, but so far, nothing. Maybe more abilities, an extra level of story mode, whatever it is, I'm looking forward to it. Considering this is the same company that leaked their own game, accidentally leaving in-game purchases as a note on the game's listing on the eShop with the game actually not having any, really shouldn't be that much of a surprise. And also, thanks to the game getting data mined, it seems as if developers are finally tinkering around with a fully 3D Kirby game. The code found within is totally different from the code used in Blowout Blast before it, so is the most exciting thing about Fighters 2 the idea that a fully 3D Kirby game is finally coming? I mean, yeah, kinda. We gotta be close to a new mainline Kirby game or something soon, man. These spin-off games are supposed to hold us off until those games come out, but all we've gotten so far is 2 upgraded versions of already existing 3DS side games. You guys, step it up, we deserve better. Now, I'm not saying that Koei Tecmo should have been working on Kirby Star Warriors instead of doing Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. I'm just heavily implying it. Hey, how you doing? If you're new here, let me bring you up to speed and get you all caught up with the rest of the class. Kirby gets treated the best out of any Nintendo franchise out there, and it's not even close, I'm sorry. Sure, Mario gets a few remakes that set the world on fire, Zelda gets one of the biggest worlds gaming has ever seen, Pokemon is out there joining the AAA gaming roster by releasing it in an incredibly buggy state and not fixing it, but consider this. We can finally play Tilt and Tumble on a console officially with an actual controller. Oh, holy sh! Oh, an amazing mirror is here too? Dude, like open world Kirby action, finally, with easily accessible online on the Switch. Like, dude, Mario Wonder doesn't even have online co-op, okay? Clearly Nintendo has their priorities in line. They even acknowledged the Super Nintendo version of Star Stacker for the very first time ever in America. Like, that's awesome. It's been on the Japanese service for well over a year before this, and they didn't even localize it. It's all still in Japanese, but it's still pretty cool. Guys, it's been 5 minutes since the last Kirby game got announced. I'm getting scared. The mere acknowledgement of Super Nintendo Star Stacker outside of Japan immediately got my mind racing. Like, don't get me wrong, this is still cool and all. It's really nice that more people have access to it than ever before, but like, man, the fan translation is right there, dude. Is it even worth playing this game's story mode if I can't decipher the sounds of pain coming from Waddle Dee after I beat him? Didn't think so. And they just went ahead and called it Kirby Star Stacker, the same name as the Game Boy game, as if we as the fans have not been calling it Super Star Stacker for years? The Kirby community will never recover from this. Listen, okay, we gotta take the stories in these Kirby puzzle games seriously. This is the same franchise that brought us Avalanche with the sassiest Kirby of all time. Please don't tread on my roots, it would not be a wise decision. Oh, So yes, if you couldn't tell, we are taking another look deep into the world of ROM hacking. And not just that, we're gonna look at some proper fan games as well. Ones that are being developed right now, and ones that are being developed 20 years ago. We got some old ones in here too, and it's important to go through those because, man, we are just riding such a damn good Kirby high, man. Like, of course, I am down to celebrate the official stuff until the cows come home. I will do that every day if I have to, but it's hard to deny that with the fan stuff on top of that, dude, us Kirby fans are really eating well. Yeah, like the famous watermelon gif. Like, really? We're just superimposing a gif into a video now? What is this, 2009? Now that is more like it. An absolute highlight for me in the ROM hacking scene nowadays is this trend of colorizing a bunch of classic OG Game Boy games. You know how Nintendo did that for Link's Awakening with the DX port on Game Boy Color? So yeah, basically that, but times 100 for games that never got them. It's all kind of surreal to look at, honestly, but this is a working game. You could load this in your Game Boy emulator of choice or an analog pocket, whatever you want, and it just works. The original Dreamland, the only Kirby game where he was white on the box art, now in more than 4 colors, that's pretty damn cool. Seeing the latter half of Bubbly Clouds be a proper starry night sky and all that, man, it's just It's just so nice looking. It's hard to believe this is the same game and not some big budget project. And that's not all, Pinball Land got the treatment too. With this, all 3 boards look a whole lot more distinct with unique color palettes, and the bosses all feel just a tad more epic as a result. Finally, the joy of spending forever trying to go up the next section of the table only to immediately get shot back down comes in a more vivid appearance than ever before. Oh, how fun. And before anybody goes, oh, but what about the Super Game Boy? That gave these games color. I mean, no, look at this. This doesn't really count. Like, yes, it is color, but come on. And besides, in the grand scheme of things, these games are very small in scope. We need to experiment with something a bit more. Kirby's Dream Land 2 DX, baby. Dude, this feels illegal to look at. Unlike the first Dreamland game, this has always been a much fuller adventure, and for this fan project, the artists have left no stone unturned to make sure that if the Game Boy Color is able to produce the color, then damn it, they were gonna use it. On top of that, the original game did feature native Super Game Boy support, which of course added color like the previous games, but in a much more appropriate way, implementing the typical 4-color palette to match the theme of the world that you're in, and even included a cute little border. I always like that a whole lot. But dude, like, come on, look at this. It's no comparison. Just gaze your eyes upon the level end bonus game. Like, I didn't even know this was possible, but quite frankly, I don't care how it was possible. I'm just here loving this. This looks gorgeous. At certain points during this adventure, it even outshines Kirby's Adventure. You know, the game that already had color in it. Looking back again to Link's Awakening DX, it was very clear that when they moved from the Game Boy to the Game Boy Color, they were also able to add new content. And hey, turns out, the fans can do the same thing. Look at that, a settings menu. Not a whole lot you can do here, but you can change the status bar color. That's kind of cool. And you can even disable the Animal Friends theme songs from interrupting the level music. Like, that's kind of cool. Koo's theme is incredible, don't get me wrong, but sometimes I want to hear the proper soundtrack. I'm sure Block Ball and Star Stacker will get their own DX spotlight at some point, but for the time being, this is what we have, and this is awesome. I love this a whole lot. The me that's been playing this game since I was a child, a very, very wee lad, is loving this. Thank you for everyone who worked on these, because oh my god. I love the Game Boy as much as the next guy, but it is hard to go back to the classic 4 shades of gray or green if the option for full color is right there. Kirby's Adventure for the NES established that this world was always meant to be bright and incredibly vivid, so it is awesome seeing this bit of a slightly different timeline where these games got the official DX treatment as well. It just makes these titles feel a lot more uniform with the native Game Boy Color game, Kirby Tiltin'. I'm sorry, Kirby. Hey guys, you want to come over and play some Kirby? Got the hot new game, Kirby. You want to come through and give it a whirl? It's Kirby. You know, while it is cool and all that Tilt and Tumble got an official re-release with controller support, it doesn't really change the fact that that game can be kinda rough and annoying at times. Whether you're tilting a Game Boy, a Switch Pro controller, or the whole ass GameCube, that is just the nature of this game. It is. Oof, oh boy. But maybe this hack that assigns tilting to the D-pad and jumping to a button is just the thing you need. This tiltless hack has been around for quite a while, but props for going the extra mile and removing the tilt and tumble from the title as well, because now we won't get sued for misinformation. There's no more tilting, there's no more tumbling, there's just the motion controls were the core gimmick with this game, and removing it does eliminate a lot of why you would even play this game in the first place, but hey, for speedrun potential, I can see this being a good time. Unless, you know, practicing with the Switch version on a controller prone to motion drifting sounds appealing. Oh boy, I can't wait to do that. And just like that, the fans are responsible for definitive editions of 4 classic Game Boy Kirby games. Now don't mind me, I will now continue to play every single level in the ball rolling minigame in Kirby until I pass out from exhaustion. Another popular trend in the world of ROM hacking are randomizers, where you can take any element of the game, levels, items, enemies, whatever you want, and completely jumble them around, and it's pure chaos. These tend to be pretty popular with Zelda and Metroid. Sonic has a few too, but who cares about any of them? It's Kirby's time to shine. He has some randomizers too. Finally, he's the king. You already know, Kirby's the king. Why do I even need to explain it? Kirby's the king. The one that was probably the least exciting was the Superstar Randomizer, which just changed up what abilities you got from the enemies, and that's it. Yeah, not thrilling at all, honestly, but it did give me paint on the very first stage, and that was pretty refreshing, playing Superstar and dealing with that feeling of, oh yeah, I forgot about paint so early on in Spring Breeze. Because let's be real, you forgot about paint too. The same can be said for the Nightmare in Dreamland randomizer, but here you can also change Kirby's color, and that's cool. Mostly because it reminded me of just how damn good the sprite work was for this game, because man, Kirby looks fantastic. Oh my god, Meta Knight was Kirby all along, oh my god. Ah, that's great, with this hack you're able to get the light ability more often than ever before. Good. The adventure randomizer, though, here's where we start cooking. You get it? Like cook Kirby? You get it. You see here, not only do we change Kirby's color as well as randomize the abilities, but the levels get shuffled around too. There's no guarantee where you're going once you enter a door in one of the worlds. Now, once you're in a level, everything remains the same from the source material, but we're getting closer and closer towards peak randomness here. Ladies and gentlemen, we got him. If any game in this franchise were to benefit from a randomizer mode, you already knew it was Amazing Mirror, because oh my god, this is one of the most unhinged hacks I've ever played in my entire life. The colors, random. The abilities themselves, not random, but a lot of enemy placements are. The music is random too, which is very bizarre when you get to a boss and it's playing a very calming theme. Oh boy, that's weird. And yes, most importantly, the levels are random too. Are you realizing just how crazy that is? Each and every door now brings you to a totally random location in this game's gigantic world with absolutely no rhyme or reason, and it is awesome. You got the occasional enemy that you didn't see coming either, and man, this is crazy. You see all these times when you go into a door and then you can see there's another door that's supposed to lead you back to the area you just came from? Well, now that door brings you to somewhere random as well. It's just total chaos. I spent like 30 minutes just running in circles, doing nothing but maybe getting 2 treasures, and then I got to my very first boss. It took a half hour. I got plenty of the fast travel switches. I found a shocking amount of those stupid star catching minigames. That's annoying. For the love of God, I was just begging for a stupid boss fight so I can make some proper progress here. It took forever. And to think you can randomize a game and play it co-op as well, that is so damn cool. This is perfect. The other Kirby randomizers maintain a similar experience as the base games do, but Amazing Mirror, that is not the case here. I am losing my damn mind and loving every second of it. This is fantastic. I don't know how smooth of an experience it is. I kind of went crazy 20 minutes into doing nothing, but man, it's still awesome. Now, last time we did this, Kirby's Adventure hacks were starting to show some real potential. Like we had Kirby's Adventure Restitched, which was pretty exciting, stringing every level together in order without ever returning to the hub world, which does lead to an interesting challenge, only because I turned this into a, how long can I keep the UFO ability from level 1, which I found out 10 minutes later was approximately, here-ish? And I didn't take that news very well. And since then, there have been a few more entries to add to the ROM hacking lineup. Like here, we have this brand new difficult hack called Heaven or Hell, which brings your health points to 1 without any way to increase it, and the same goes for your life count, turning the entire game into a one-hit death adventure with many trips back to the game over screen. It is painful. If you're one of those clowns on the internet that says that Kirby games are just far too easy, sometimes you're right, but this wouldn't be one of those instances. There's some more level-based potential showing up periodically too. Here we have some levels designed off the ones from Super Mario Bros. Here we got Star Rod Scuffle, which is a lot more fleshed out with new graphics for the levels and even for the ability cards, which is pretty sick. And for an extra bit of fan service, Paint Roller was replaced with Addo from Dreamland 3. Love that. I'm grasping at anything I can here because I'm an unsatiable Kirby fan. But all these years later, there is still one dominant king in this field: Kirby's Halloween Adventure. We did talk about this last time, but since that time, there have been multiple updates to it, leading to version 1.4, which is the final patch. Halloween Adventure is complete. Brand new level designs, brand new enemy sprites, brand new level themes, brand new ability cards that all go with this spooky trick-or-treat styled vibe. This is a proper new game built on the original Adventure engine. This is clearly the cream of the crop. The aesthetic here is just so unique. It transcends just being a simple batch of levels because I was always wanting to jump into the next stage just to see what it was going to be this time. I have played Adventure dozens and dozens of times in the past, and it was so nice to play an entire game where every level caught me by surprise. Dude, even when you start the game all the way in level 1, you can go into Kirby's house. You couldn't do that in the official games until Forgotten Land. Like, you can do this now? That's awesome. And the new ability cards, I just love these so much. The new high jump ability card is Superman. Crash is now Bomberman, that's perfect. If you gulp down an enemy with no ability, it goes, I got a rock. But if you got the rock ability, it goes, I got a rock. That's genius. The pixelated Kirby games have been getting the fan hack love for far too long. I am happy to say that polygons are finally getting some love too. Check this out, Kirby 64 Wispy's Trials, a set of brand new levels for the Pink Puff's first pseudo 3D adventure. This means the future is bright for brand new, fully 3D environments for this classic N64 title. The fact that we can get new levels for this game, that's awesome. I mean, let's be real here, there's not a whole lot to work with, but I gotta talk about it, because man, it's maybe in 10 years there'll be something good, but right now, this is what we got. I mean, like, also, someone ported Bob-omb Battlefield from Mario 64, like, that's That's kind of cool. Yeah, it's pretty slim pickings for Kirby 64. Really now, it is all about Return to Dreamland because this is the game that's gotten the quote-unquote pretty damn cool treatment, all things considered. I was kind of hopeful that Triple Deluxe and Planet Robobot would be in the conversation too, but honestly, the best thing we got right now is simply upping the resolution in an emulator and dreaming about what the game would look like with an eventual console port. That's it. I mean, it looks nice. I mean, if this was ever in proper HD, I'm sure it would look gorgeous, but as it is, it looks really cool. Meanwhile, we go back to Return to Dreamland for the Wii and we got... Oh, you see, that's why I liked Return to Dreamland Deluxe so much. It could have been a simple port of what the Wii game looks like, just upscaled. I mean, that's exactly what they did with Super Mario 3D All-Stars. Why wouldn't I expect them to do that with Kirby as well? But no, the art style swap makes things stand out a lot more than ever before. So when it comes time to thinking about some theoretical console versions of the 3DS games, just the idea of getting something in the vein of Return to Dreamland Deluxe gets me very excited. But man, you know what? Even if you weren't into every single graphical change, there's a mod that released immediately after the game came out that removed said outlines. I'd make fun of the people who were so desperate to remove the characters' outlines immediately, but quite frankly, I'm a Paper Mario fan, so I can't be making such outlandish claims. I'm no better. Oh yeah, that was totally a King Dedede tree, by the way. Tree DD. I hate this. I hate this a lot. I was trying to act like this never happened and move on, but I guess we'll talk about it. Without a doubt, it is the Return to Dreamland modding scene that is certainly the most unhinged of the group, to put it lightly. Yeah, man, remember when Kirby rode atop a Dedede at the end of the adventure when you were going up against Magolor? Of course you do, look, it's right there. Oh yeah, that looks about right. This is Kirb, isn't this the Kirby plush that typically hides in front of people's houses with a knife? Oh no. One mod that really stuck out to me is Galactic Crisis, which not only replaces Meta Knight with Galactonite, but even implements the proper moveset of that character, which is pretty damn cool. This isn't just Meta Knight with a different skin, nah, you can just cause havoc throughout the entire game as Galactonite. That's pretty awesome. This thing's a butterfly, and it's causing chaos. I love it. You can even give Fighter Kirby Jotaro Joestar's hat, giving a whole new meaning to Kirby's bizarre adventure. Shout out also to Kirby's Retro Dreamland. This is just a neat idea. A full graphical overhaul that restylizes the game to be more like the cancelled GameCube game. The gameplay is exactly the same, like nothing has changed there, but considering how elusive that original beta is, it's pretty refreshing to go through the finished product with this new but old coat of paint. And hell, while I'm at it, someone took this idea a step further with a deluxe mod that had new models based off of the character's original adventure appearances. I love this so much. Sadly, I am no Switch modding pro, so I can only enjoy this image from afar, but it looks nice from afar. I'll give it that. Unlike all the stuff that I already know how to do with the Wii version, where with the click of a few buttons I can... Uh-oh. Meta Knight got fat. You know, I understand, you know, I've come to accept that there are some people out there who, when the first chance that they get, they wanna take their favorite characters and make them really fat, and that's fine. That's your prerogative. It's also my prerogative to see that and want to go get my eyeballs cleansed after this. So that's in the plans. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up the RTDL mod to end all RTDL mods, Revenge of Dreamland. On the surface, Revenge is a straight-up hard mode of the original game, but if you're familiar with the original, you quickly begin to notice dozens of tiny little changes here and there that really keep you on your toes in the best possible way. Level designs, slightly different. The hat designs for abilities, slightly different as well. Hell, on top of that, like in the older games, abilities like Fire or Beam even fully change your color. That's so cool. You then begin to notice that certain enemies are moving a lot faster too. If an enemy has a projectile, their distance is much longer than before. Dude, I'm out here dying to the first Gigant Edge mini-boss, like what do you mean? The biggest surprise of all to me was that the energy spheres are now in different locations, some of them. While plenty of them are in the original spots, so coupled with the harder difficulty, it's just harder to get to them in general, but a lot of them are placed meticulously behind new strings of obstacles and enemies that are genuinely challenging. It really could have been so easy to just make every single enemy kill you in one hit, and then level designs are introducing spikes everywhere, and then boom, that's the hard mode, but no. There was actually a lot of thought and a surprising amount of tweaking done to make for a genuinely great mod. Well, until I thought, you know, Wispy Woods was dead and, you know, just as easy as he always was, but then, like, he changed color out of nowhere, and his attack strategy changed, like, excuse me? This is possible? I'm mad. I'm actually mad. Okay, I'm not that mad. I'm more so upset. I'm just upset. Play this mod with friends if you never want to see those friends again. That is an AntDude guarantee. I hope that when it comes to looking towards the future of Kirby modding, that Forgotten Land gets a bright future, since it is the first big 3D adventure everyone was hoping for after all. I mean, somebody got the game running in 60 FPS almost immediately, which is pretty cool. Not like the game needed it, the native 30 FPS works perfectly fine for this game, but it is nice to see. I'm more of a playable woofy guy personally. Yeah, it's a lot of skins. We have a lot of skins to work with here. Minecraft Kirby, Diamond Sword Kirby, Always Surprised Kirby, Grammy Award winner Meta Knight, because yes, that is a real thing, and I'm so proud of him. It is just skins at the moment, but man, am I excited to see what idiocy comes in the future. All I'm saying is if you were thinking the original game was missing Shadow the Hedgehog as the true final boss, then damn it, the modding community has you covered. At the end of the day, the exciting takeaway from all of this is while the hacking and modding scenes are still not as robust as Mario or Sonic, there's a lot more happening in a wider range of games now than we had a few years back when it was mostly just adventure hacks and I don't know, Superstar had one thing, I guess, that was about it. I mean, in the last video, I had to bring up mods of Sonic games just to fill up the video time, so we're in a much better spot now. But hey, let's continue looking at some fan projects. Sometimes, if you want the really good stuff, we gotta look beyond simply taking a ROM and modifying it to our will. The world of full-on fan games has been growing consistently for years now. It's bigger than it ever has been before, and that's really exciting. So there are definitely some projects that I want to highlight here, as well as take some time to appreciate where we are now by looking back at where we started 20 plus years ago. Because once again, man, part of me just really wanted an excuse to finally check out Kirby and the Eternal Paradise. From seeing online bits and pieces of what was being built here, I can tell that this fan game was going to be a bit more on the special side. You see, last time on this adventure, I played Kirby's Dream Land Advance, a reimagining of Kirby's debut adventure in the style of an authentic GBA game. This, on the other hand, takes that great authentic style and adds so much more control options to your moveset. The current abilities on offer have brand new moves to work with that really flow well into each other. You can swap between two abilities on the fly now. You got this sick slide long jump combo. This is a level of complexity I feel like Nintendo would never actually do themselves in an official Kirby game, but this is all still done in a way that feels like a proper Kirby game. And it's just a shame there isn't more to play with in this demo, man, because this is going to be good when there's more to dive into. The reality though is that even though I'm so excited to spotlight this game for the first time ever, it does seem like current development has been ceased. It seems like the developer was going through some stuff and hey, it's more important to handle that than making a fan game, but just know this, sir, your contribution to the Kirby fan game field has not gone unnoticed. Similarly, we have Gamble Galaxy Stories, another one with plenty of potential. Simply put, it's another super competent Kirby fan project where who knows how long it'll take before we get there, but any final product that comes of this will be fantastic. And with the source code being publicly available too, hopefully that's sooner rather than later. You consider what these projects are looking like in the current era, and we look back to 2010's Invaders from the Dark, it's clear to see the jumps that some of these fans are making, while also all coming together to agree that, okay, yeah, that GBA Kirby sprite really was peak, wasn't it? But you know what, that being said, Kirby's Dream Land Plus really caught my eye too. You don't often see fan games of popular franchises trying to emulate the Game Boy style of all options, but hey, that's what we got. Great new sprite work, 8-bit remixes of music spanning the entire series, new abilities with the option to play as Gooey. Once again, not a final product, but it is cool to see different fans approaching fan games in different ways. Sorta like, this one's about to be different. Kirby Battle Blitz is a fighting game. And, it's a really good one too. What the hell? This is the most anime bullshit I have ever seen from Kirby, and Kirby has an anime. I feel like this has no right to be as fun as it is, but once I started playing, I was just nailing combos left and right and characters were flying all over the place. This is awesome. So we got this wide cast of Kirby original characters, and they all have pretty different movesets that all work with the same idea of building up your meter, juggling your opponents, fairly typical fighting game stuff. But it all just feels really satisfying, considering this isn't just a Kirby Fighters thing of, oh, every character is just a different Kirby ability, and instead each character is their own unique thing and they have an actual personality as told by the game's story mode. It immediately became a much grander blowout blast, giving each character a test run and seeing which one of them felt the best. One of the Kirbys has a damn Keyblade. Like, of course it's gonna be insane. The Sonic community did this same thing with Sonic Smackdown. Like, these franchises that decided to have these weird, offshoot, unconventional fighting games as an official product actually have a fan project that is a more traditional fighting game, and they're both sick. Give me a friggin' Star Tropics fighting game next, I don't know. And dude, there's a level creator too? Dreamcrafter, Mario Maker but for Kirby. Are you sold yet? Like everything else here, we're still far away from any sort of final product, but man, what is here already works surprisingly well. It's an 8-bit Kirby game with the obvious NES style, but we got Rootin' Tootin' Whip Kirby here. I love him. It is already possible to go online and download some other creators' levels, but I was all about giving the actual designer a shot, and it was surprisingly straightforward. Placing tiles, enemies, doors, adding background layers, all with, of course, being able to test what you made immediately. It's really fun. The controls don't feel exactly like a Kirby game. There's definitely some tweaking to be done there, but what's currently here, it's awesome. I know I keep jumping around from franchise to franchise here, but man, Mega Man Maker does the same thing for that franchise, and it's just so cool knowing that the main companies aren't gonna do any of this stuff anytime soon, so leave it to the fans to pick up the slack and celebrate these classic video game styles with seemingly endless content. What more could you ask for? I mean, the Whip Kirby is cool and all, and like I do like Rootin' Tootin' Kirby, but I think it's about time we buckle down and just finally give Kirby a gun. Watch out, everybody. Kirby's f***ing pissed. And this time, he's done being nice. He is locked and loaded and ready to destroy everything that comes in his way, not just in Dreamland, but in any Nintendo world he dares step into. What is this, Death? Thinks that he can step to Kirby with a gun? Yeah, right. That's a good way for Death to go from being a title to being a description. What's beautiful about Kirby's Rampage is that this game was put online relatively recently, but it looks like it was developed during the Stone Age. All things considered, the fan game scene certainly isn't all that vast, but we do have a lot of promising demos, as well as, once again, Kirby's Rampage, which probably has an ending, but I don't know, the game kind of crashed, so I couldn't see the end and I wasn't going to do it again, but I trust that there's an ending. I don't know. The same goes for the ROM hacks too. There is a lot of promise being developed that hopefully, once again, I keep saying this, in 5-10 years, we get a lot more cool stuff. It feels so nice to actually have a lot of things to play rather than struggling for table scraps. I just want more Kirby food, man. We gotta continue this whole Kirby fans are eating good thing as long as we possibly can. But now, it is finally time to take a trip back through the Wayback Machine. Way back before wikis and AI learning were dominating the internet world, I was taking many trips to this little fan site called Kirby's Rainbow Resort, where one of its main selling points was, hey, this one section here for fan games. It's kind of crazy to think, but I did actually play these games when I was a wee little fetus, and I haven't touched them since, so let's see if they hold up. I mean, they're not gonna, but let's see anyway. Kirby games. Does this title screen have you excited? I remember looking at this when I was a kid and being like, oh man, more than one game in one game? I can't wait to play it. We got a really slow Breakout, a shooting game against Nightmare. Oh, okay, that's it. Maybe we need more polished single game experiences. That's probably better off. Fighter Kirby Rush. Oh dear God. Dude, honestly, like, the most fun part about this was installing it. Like, this blue to black gradient is a window to the past, man. Send me back to the screensaver maze where it's safe, the original liminal space. I'm home. Minigame Madness has a similar premise to Kirby games, multiple games in one. Let's give it a go. Okay, so we got a basic memory game, that's a classic, and the other planets are currently inaccessible. Don't you just hate playing games in early access? I don't care whether or not it's been 20 plus years since this demo released, hopefully we get the full product soon enough. I can't wait for the full game. Next up, Met Arena. Oh man, there he goes. He's moving all right. All those solid green knights don't stand a chance. I don't know what they are. They didn't explain. It's just I'm being bombarded by green, and the audience is stunned at this wondrous performance. I would be too. And when you're done fighting, you can go on to the next game, Save Kirby, where you play as Meta Knight, and he all right, this one lost me, I'm not gonna lie. Gourmet Grab, this is kind of a Kirby thing, right? Like Gourmet Race from Superstar, maybe this one can be kind of similar. That ain't Kirby. But forget the first game, man, I'm all in for Gourmet Grab 2, where you can not only play as Kirby and even Meta Knight now, but also Sonic, there he is. And it's, oh God, it's so bad. Here we got Bump in Battle, where you just sort of pray that you knock the enemy into the hole. That's it. That's it. Kirby Asteroids, not asteroids, Asteroids. Which, you know what? I'll give him credit. This is actually the arcade game Asteroids. This one is totally accurate, just with Kirby. Credit where it's due. Good for you. Candy Cane Frenzy. Just keep walking in a straight line towards the endless void, gathering as many candy canes as you can and avoiding the trees. And be careful, because if you touch the trees, Kirby dies? I think? I don't know, my game froze here. Kirby on Zebes? Yo, the Metroid world? Okay, let's go. Oh yeah, man, this is the Metroid I remember all too well. But now we got Kirby in this. Oh, that's awesome. You know, you look at this and then you look at Dread. They're the same picture. Special shout out to PW Rush, a minigame with Lolo instead of Kirby. That's awesome. I mean, not the game. The game is bad. I'm just happy that someone back in 2004 said Lolo's name out loud. Really, no, it's just a less good version of Kirby's Star Shot. But you know what? I swear to God, this is gonna be weird to say, but there is some ambition here because you can actually get a handful of copy abilities that will affect your shots. That is shockingly ambitious, especially when you compare it to Candy Cane Frenzy. The boss fights are shockingly tough. There's like no rhyme or reason. They're just shooting off like oh, back to the title screen. Good. Oh God, okay, maybe Kirby Valiance is the one, you know? We have an actual story to consider here. I can invest myself into the plot. In an age of darkness and dreamland, there was little hope to anyone. The new enemies, the the Baboombas? Alright, you bastard Baboombas. You'll never get into the fort if I have anything to say about it. That's probably why they're so angry. Who called them Baboombas? It's like a secret cut cousin of the Goomba family from Mario. You know, they didn't really put up that strong of an offense, but I am getting kind of tired, so I'm just gonna let them have the fort. It's fine. I'll just take a nap here. It'll be fine. All right, there's a story. Everything's gone bad. Everything you can expect. Wow, the Baboombas are evil. Let's see here. If you can kill more Baboomba in this game, you can unlock. Different endings. Gaming has never been better than this. All right, time to answer a very important question here. Am I gonna take the time out of my day? Am I gonna go for the completionist run and succumb to all these urges to do such thing, defeating 70 plus Baboomba to see the final ending of this game? You already know the answer to that. It's no. You can see the video's ending soon, so I'm not gonna do that. They're Baboomba. I'm not gonna kill 70 plus Baboomba, all right? That's silly. Let the Baboomba run the world for all I care. First you draw a circle, and then you just fill it in with the color black. I guess, there you go, it's a Baboomba. Congratulations. Back in my Kirby's Dream Buffet video, I said this. Next year, we're gonna have a bit of a break, right? That means that, you know, they'll step back and they'll be like, okay, maybe this year we don't make 1 or 2 Kirby games in the same year and shadow drop them on Twitter. That's going to happen. That video released August 28th, 2022. They announced this game 2 weeks later. Dude, like, there's really nothing easier than being a Kirby fan, like, honestly. If you're anti-Kirby, somehow, and you're annoyed with all of the preferential treatment this franchise gets from Nintendo, I understand, I really do. We just gotta sit here and the coolest things ever will happen to us, and Captain Falcon is still dead. It's like this company can't let a single direct go by without announcing something for Kirby. Forgotten Land and Dream Buffet were still both pretty fresh and bam, doesn't matter. Now the Wii game Return to Dreamland is getting remastered for the Switch very soon. okay, yeah, sure, why not? Kirby's Return to Dreamland? Quite frankly, I did figure that when this game was going to come to the Switch, I did expect a bit of a trilogy pack with Triple Deluxe and Planet Robobot as well. Would have made for a sick 30th anniversary celebration pack, and I mean, hey, if Miitopia of all games can get remade for the Switch, why can't those? But I think that's just me, as a Kirby fan, accustomed to being a spoiled little brat. I can hear it now. Kirby Triple Deluxe? Deluxe. Easy money right there. Well, I mean, there simply aren't enough Kirby games for me to play. Though, that being said, right before RTDLDX released, Nintendo announced in another Direct that, you know what? Tilt and Tumble and Amazing Mirror for the Game Boy and GBA Switch Online apps respectively, those are coming, and it's a bigger deal than you would initially think. Yeah, these are usually just typical ROM drops and that's it. I mean, Dreamland 1 got released as soon as the app did. But actually, this means we will have an official console port of Tilt and Tumble for the first time with native motion controls. Incredible. I don't know if those GameCube holding speedrunners will make the jump over to the Switch Pro Controller, but damn it, it's a tilt in the right direction. And Amazing Mirror is gonna be on an emulator that has official online play. Oh my god. I know these emulators just inherently have online play, so it's to be expected, but dude, Amazing Mirror Online. That's incredible. And just those announcements on top of all of the additions to this remaster, man, like I said, us Kirby fans really just have to sit here and relax, and the best things will happen. Sorry about the mad ramblings of a Kirby fan here going through a really good time in my life. This timeline is treating someone like me really good right about now. But the star of the show for today, Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe. It's an interesting choice. I'm all for more Kirby content, obviously, as well as more Wii games getting ported. Big fan of that as well. It's just been less than a year since Forgotten Land, and I feel really weird that we're already here. Though, I guess, realistically, the timing does make a little bit more sense than you would initially think. Return to Dreamland is now the 4th Kirby game to get the remake treatment, 5th if you count Superstar Stacker as a remake. I don't know why you would, but some people do. And if you look at the timing in between the original's release as well as the remake's release, you can see that we're looking at roughly 4,100 days, which isn't too far off from the duration of time between Adventure and Superstar and their respective remakes. The timing actually makes total sense. Extra Epic Yarn came out the soonest, and hey, maybe that's why it's the weakest one. You gotta shoot closer to that 4,000 day mark, that's the ticket. This is a moment that doubled as not only a fun piece of trivia, but also a reminder that we're all progressively getting older. Look at me reviewing the original Wii game all those years ago. This little idiot had no clue what the next few years had in store for him. Also, did you know that in Japan they kept Wii in the name, so it's Kirby Wii Deluxe? Did you also know that while the game was called Kirby's Adventure Wii in Europe originally, they went ahead and took the Return to Dreamland name, so now the name's different depending on what console, as opposed to America where it's Return to Dreamland the entire time. Does anyone else find this interesting, or am I way too far gone? Man, I still remember when this game was originally revealed as just Kirby Wii. It's easy to forget just how important this game was for this franchise. Kirby's return to Dreamland? When did he ever leave, right? Well, believe it or not, there did used to be a time where Kirby didn't get love every 20 minutes from Nintendo. After 64, the Crystal Shards in 2000, the franchise was mostly relegated to spin-offs and remakes, and the platformers that did release, Amazing Mirror and Squeak Squad, while both fun in their own regards, it was evident that they didn't have the amount of love and polish that the games deserved, probably in part due to being handed off to another developer, Flagship. Only in 2010 with Epic Yarn did we finally see Kirby getting the big spotlight again. It had been 10 years since Kirby felt like a big deal. There was that glimmer of hope with a GameCube game, but as we all know, that was in development purgatory and eventually scrapped with elements from that build showing up in later games. And speaking of, did you see that new footage of that GameCube game was actually discovered randomly in 2022? That's... wow. Footage once thought to be lost just happened to show up on YouTube 17 years later. That's... what? And if we go even further down this rabbit hole, remember when Nintendo dropped an Iwata Asks segment that revealed that not only was that GameCube game canceled, but there were 2 other games in development too that never saw the light of day? Well, obviously the 4-player co-op one was a big selling point for Return, as well as Star Allies in the future. There's this sort of isometric one that managed to finally show up in Blowout Blast, obviously expanded upon greatly with Forgotten Land. But this third one here, the side-scroller with a cel-shaded art style? Well, how about that? Obviously, art style preference is subjective, whether or not you dig the remaster's outline style. You could argue that Battle Royale had a similar art style, but nobody actually played that game. I could just be grasping at thin air here, that is totally possible, but I'm going to call Return to Dreamland Deluxe closure after so many years of rare information drops for canceled Kirby games, and that's actually really awesome. Yeah, I think I have an unhealthy obsession. I think that much is clear. Oh, this is a Kirby cup that they released at Kung Fu Tea locations. It had like a pink berry drink. It was to celebrate the release of Forgotten Land. It was pretty good from what I remember. You can't get it anymore. It was like a year ago at this point. But I kept the cup. And I still use it. That tastes just like Kirby. I saw some people say that because Sand Kirby is in this game, you thought I was gonna, like, for a gag, eat sand? What's wrong with you people? Important question right out of the gate. In this remaster, does King Dedede still do the thing on the title screen? The game's perfect. The story begins in the peaceful world of Dreamland. Oh, it's the butterfly. I am shattered beyond repair and there is no saving me. A mysterious ship crashes, Magolor needs your help to repair it. It's a pretty typical story. Something bad is happening and you're the good guy, so you gotta go save the day. That makes a lot of sense. There's not a whole lot more to elaborate on here. Magolor is one of the most trustworthy characters in this franchise, and I will do anything he says. But you know what? This whole new King Dedede thing really has me thinking far too hard about this newer redesign. Club Penguin looking ass. They've given this dude so many redesigns in his life, they can't stick to one. It's a miracle we got the same design for 2 games back to back. We got this adorable little ball of chub in 64, this odd, always mean-looking design in Triple Deluxe. Wasn't bad, he just looked very angry. His anime look, he was always kind of too big, always put me off, not gonna lie. I think I'm also in the minority of not really digging the Star Allies design. Like, Buff Dedede was funny for a minute, but even when he's not buff, this guy right here, he's a little too long for my liking. And then Forgotten Land came out and gave us a king that was almost perfect. The adorable 64-styled big blue ball of simultaneous happiness and anger, but modernized, just with a pretty cool tribal look that worked well for that game given his insane boss battles. So in Deluxe, having that model with his classic outfit, dare I say we have reached peak Dedede. I definitely like this more than the original Wii model. But points also go to Smash Dedede. That's pretty damn close to the top 2. And why Stone Kirby in this game can summon Star Allies Dedede and not New Dedede, I don't know. I'm starting to believe in a Dedede multiverse. Also, on the topic of redesigns, shout out to this Twitter user here for pointing out that the enemy Waddle Dees and the friend Waddle Dees in this game use the models from Star Allies and Forgotten Land respectively, based off of pretty slight differences in the face. This is pretty important information. Really doing a great job doing anything but talking about the actual game itself. I apologize about that. While getting a brand new return to form Kirby game was actually super refreshing back in 2011, nothing changes the fact that, yep, this is a Kirby game alright. Return to Dreamland was Nintendo's attempt to take the formula of Kirby games that worked so well in the past, like Adventure and Superstar, and just polish the hell out of it. Something they would continue to improve upon with the 3DS sequels. The basic mechanics all feel nice and tight, all of the copy abilities do the Superstar thing of having multiple attacks that can be pulled off pending your button inputs. Each level has multiple shiny things to collect, so you actually have to pay attention to your surroundings instead of just plowing through the levels. And it's all bundled together with a great presentation for both the visuals and the soundtrack, all really great stuff. And even back on the Wii, I always thought this game looked really nice. All of the colors just pop, the foreground pieces are nicely detailed, and if you ever just stare off into the background, the amount of detail that goes into every single landscape is actually kind of stunning. It's easy to not even consider them because you're always running through them and focusing on what's in front of you instead of what's behind you, but if you ever get a second to chill out and just look at the back, there's a lot going on there. And then we jump on over to Deluxe, and yeah, there's the matter of the most noticeable difference on the surface. We have outlines now. Rather than simply having the game look like it's running through Dolphin on max settings, we actually have a pretty noticeable art style shift. The foreground and background elements have a lot more detail, some areas go for a bit more of a pastel-y color palette, I think it's very pleasing. And yeah, all of the characters have outlines now. Interesting choice, not like the characters ever blended into the background from my experience in the past, but for what it's worth, I do really love how this looks. I prefer when art styles have a bit more extra artistic personality to them, and realistically, Return to Dreamland was always relatively uninspired in terms of its style. Yeah, incredibly detailed, for sure, but grassland, desert, underwater, snow, volcano. Some levels later on are a little bit more memorable, like the mechanical stages, and especially the Sky Tower, but in general, it is pretty standard stuff. Not a problem necessarily, but certainly doesn't stand out compared to some of the environments and themes of the 3DS games. So for me, this new style adds a lot to help Return appear more striking. Granted, I do think the outlines could have still been an option. Like 2 days after the demo released, there was a mod that removed the outlines and it looks fine. But whatever, I still like them. It's even more visually interesting when we compare this directly with the Kirby adventure built for the Switch, Star Allies. Even with the base Wii version, yeah, I think Return looks better. So clearly, Deluxe blows that right out of the water. Star Allies just didn't really have much of a style that let things pop as much as Deluxe does. And also, gotta say, it's really nice having a console Kirby game now that runs at 60 FPS. It's about damn time. I've said this once, I'll say it a million times, I am no frame rate snob, but when all of the other modern Kirby games run at 60 and Star Allies ran at 30, it looks kinda gross. It was fine with Forgotten Land since that game was an entirely different format, but for the 2D games, it was jarring to me in 2018, still jarring in 2023. And hell, in recent years, there was even a mod developed just to push Star Allies to 60, and it looks so much better. All I'm saying is yes, Return to Dreamland Deluxe looks really good. It's no Metroid Prime Remastered, because Kirby's better. The soundtrack is just as good as it ever was, that much was a given, though there has been some changes here too, mostly in regards to what songs play where. One of the secret HAL rooms now plays music from Dream Buffet, the mini boss tower in Nutty Noon now plays a remix of the Superstar boss battle theme instead of the King Dedede theme. The same stage in Extra Mode plays Stage of the Partners from Kirby Fighters 2, the second phase of the HRD3 fight uses Roar of Dedede from Forgotten Land now, which is an incredible change. Not a ton of differences here, but just plenty of really good fan service. Wow, the new game in a series with consistently good games is good. I am shocked and appalled with this information. You see, what I was most interested in, what my big dumb baby brain was interested in, was just what was going to be new about this release. You know, when it comes to remakes, remasters, re-releases, whatever you want to call them, Nintendo's track record is all over the place. We could get Bowser's Fury, we could get new funky mode. And for this one, I mean, come on now, what are you gonna have in this Kirby game that's gonna be good for new players, but also people like me who have played this game like a dozen times in the past? I'm not lying, like a dozen times. Like I said, unhealthy obsession. First and foremost, you can now taunt with the right stick. Yeah, the Wii game didn't have that, Deluxe is better, 10 out of 10. Okay, but for real now, they added diagonal swimming to this version. This is a game changer. You do not understand how exciting this is. For the first time in one of these Kirby remasters, remakes, whatever you want to call them, we have brand new abilities. First up, we got Mecha. You're a Gundam now, this is sick. You got a laser you can charge up, you can shoot some projectiles of the fire and electric variety, you got a sweet jetpack, and these super powered hands too. This is pretty badass, honestly, though a bit unwieldy at times if I'm being honest. Like, there's this really cool charge forward backflip laser combo that looks awesome, but I feel like it doesn't do as much damage as it should. It looks like it would be devastating, but it feels like nothing actually happens. The outfit is certainly better than its utility. Maybe I just need to get better at it, I don't know. Make sure to put it in the next game, you cowards. And then we got Sand. Oh my god, this one's incredible. Harnessing the power of pocket sand, you can attack in every direction in a handful of different ways, and it feels like every single grain of sand Kirby pulls out does incredible damage. Dude, like, just hold the block button and you're invulnerable forever. And then you can shoot out into the sky doing a surprising amount of damage. Dude, Sand is insane. Both abilities each have a new challenge room in the Star Cutter now, and that's pretty cool. Considering how strict those rooms are to get gold rankings, let alone platinum rankings, these are the perfect ways to learn what these abilities have in store. Yo, even the Sand enemy is cuter than the Mecha one. Like, this is not the outcome I expected. Oh, and also I can't forget to mention that Festival from Star Allies is in this game now. Hooray? The only other time new abilities were added to a re-release, it was the Ravel abilities in Extra Epic Yarn, and considering that game didn't have copy abilities in the first place, I thought their inclusion was unnecessary, honestly, but here, yeah, they're fine. They don't really fill a void that the original game was lacking, but the more power-ups, the better in my opinion. Need I remind you just how good Sand is again? I got into an argument on Twitter about whether or not Sand is the 69th ability in this franchise, and I'm sorry to report that, no, it's not. Though I get the excitement. Sure, if you count like the anime exclusives, and does anybody count normal as an ability? Sorry, that's weird if you do. Strictly speaking, from the games, from all of these main adventures on Nintendo consoles, Mecha and Sand are abilities 67 and 68 respectively. I would know, I did a whole ass list ranking all of them. How are some of these people trying to tell me that I'm wrong? That video had 67 entries and didn't even include Sand because they revealed it shortly after I made that video because Nintendo actually hates me and wanted that video irrelevant as soon as possible. In regards to where I would put these abilities on that ranking list, I mean, I think I was pretty dead on with Mecha's placement. I think mid-20s is the perfect spot for that one, but Sand? Like, dude, like, I don't know, maybe in my top 10? This definitely became my arena go-to ability. Stupid Galactonite here did not stand a chance. And this dude's like a god. But at the end of the day, what this does mean is it doesn't matter what the next Kirby game is, what the next ability is, no matter what, 69 is right around the corner. Interestingly enough, some of the returning abilities got modified as well. The Energy Sword move that debuted in Triple Deluxe is here now. Fire has a couple of new moves as well, one when you're at a standstill and one when you're rolling. And the Hammer Flip move that you're really used to now because it's super powerful and also destroys bosses. I totally forgot that that wasn't in the original Wii game. It's here now though. This is so much to take in. One of my favorite things with these Kirby games and the fan service is the stone transformations, and we have a couple new ones here. Magolor on the Star Cutter, Kirby from Forgotten Land, the Fat Boy from Dream Buffet, really like that one. And this one did show up in Star Allies, but hey, it's QB on Mount Fuji. Some techniques have also been modified for King Dedede, Meta Knight, and Bandana D in co-op to more match how they played in more recent games, and that's pretty cool too. Found this out because even though I'm not a huge fan of co-op in my platformers, you can still play as these characters in the arena mode. Hell yeah. I know I'm gonna sound selfish, but if there was anything I do wish they added, I do think the challenge stages from Dream Collection would have been a really cool bonus. That content is still trapped on the Wii, so it would have been nice to, you know, not have that be the case. I have to assume there was some hesitation because Smash was an ability for one of them, and Smash isn't in this game, and they had to prioritize Festival instead, you know. I get it. But considering this was likely their only chance for this content to come back, That's kind of upsetting. This would have also been a pretty cool time to bring back the Super Spark and Super Cutter abilities that are cut content. Why not? A re-release is always the perfect time to bring some of that stuff back. Oh yeah, the super abilities. One of the big gimmicks with Return to Dreamland were these areas where you would get a fancy super ability, you start shining something fierce, and with the push of a button, you get essentially a little screen nuke. It's really cool, and Kirby is really cute while doing so. Mechanically, I never really thought these were that great. Once you get past that flashy style, you feel powerful, for sure, but these rooms that you get these abilities in equate to just holding forward and pressing a button when something dare stands in your path. And at the end of the day, they were just a means to getting to these portals that transport you to Purgatory for a little chase segment and a mini boss fight. It gets the job done, but it's not something I'm super excited about. Like, I think Super Suck and Triple Deluxe is way better. Gameplay-wise, it's pretty formulaic. Except for that one time that you become the head of a snowman, that part's perfect. But hey, back on topic with differences with this deluxe version, each of the abilities now have a lot better animation when you first get them. It used to be when you would get the ability, Kirby would do a nice little, hey, look, I got it, and then you'd get into the gameplay. But here, oh, the camera's swooping, Kirby's a lot more emotional about this whole ordeal. This is great. I love this. It's so nice. But just in case you don't like those and want to get right back to the action, well, now you can skip the cutscenes too. Couldn't do that in the original. They've added the Gigant Sword and the Morpho Sword to the Ultra Sword lineup. That's pretty sick. Enemies will now fly and hit the screen with intense force when you take them out with one of the attacks. That's just a cool touch. If we're going for style over substance with the whole super ability thing, doubling down on the style was certainly the right call. I like these changes a lot. Super Suck is still better though. They even brought back the old animations from the Wii game during one of the final boss fights. That's a pretty cool throwback. And outside of the abilities themselves, there's even more minor visual changes, like this part early on in the game with the Super Fire ability where you burn down this big tree in the original and the portal just shows up in the middle. Well, now there's a little cutscene where the tree will burn down and fall into the background. Cool, that was my major complaint with the original game. Ooh, the screen transitions are new here too. There is so much visual polish added to Deluxe. Oh man, what else? Okay, so there's a Helper Magolor mechanic now, where Magolor will give you health when it's low and pick you up when you fall down pits. That's nice of him. Certainly not something that someone with evil intentions would ever do. I like him a lot. He's got a bright future. You can also now store items, Super Mario World style. Sure? The game never really needed to be easier, but hey, anything for accessibility to newer players is fine by me. Conversely, the harder extra mode is still here, unlocked after beating the game with roughly 70% completion, and like in the original, it's the same adventure, just made a bit more difficult. Harder bosses with some cosmetic changes, more enemies, smaller health bar with less health pickups, and an extra mode exclusive boss near the end of the game, which yes, is a throwback to the cancelled GameCube game. In Deluxe's extra mode, there are even more enemies and obstacles compared to the original, but quite frankly, without direct comparison, I couldn't tell the difference. I still died a bunch because of the shorter health bar. I just can't tell if the enemy that killed me was in the original or not. So sue me, I'm a fake Kirby fan. There's a new past adventure screen on the main menu now, continuing the current trend of Nintendo reminding us just how often they make these damn games with no sign of stopping anytime soon. They added amiibo support so you can get item drops whenever you want. Okay. Of course, co-op is still present, but unfortunately, there is no online play for this. There never was any indicator that there was going to be online, but hey, once again, I was never a co-op platformer guy, wasn't going to affect me either way, but I can tell that there were a lot of people online who are upset at the omission. And if you are one of the upset ones, consider this. He's actually called Bandana Waddle Dee in this one. He was just Waddle Dee in the original but happened to wear a bandana. Instead, online play is restricted to the new minigame mode, Merry Magoland. Because standard minigame selection menus are for losers, and Kirby is not a loser, damn it. Oh, no, not the whole minigame mode, my apologies. Just one. Just one of them is online. Yay. Oh man, this Magolor dude is great. He is the best. He's taken me out of pitfalls, he's giving me items, and he made an entire ass theme park. Dude, this guy, come on now. He can do nothing wrong. We got a whopping 10 sub-games in this one, the most of any game in the franchise, holy cow. For new games, we have Magolor's Tome Trackers, where a specific book cover gets shown, and it's a race to get to it in the pile first. Plus, you're all wearing school caps. It's adorable. And Booming Blasters, where we give everybody a gun and have a good old round of deathmatch. I'm glad Kirby continues to practice his Second Amendment rights. As for the other 8 sub-games, they're all returning from older Kirby games. Yes! We have Egg Catcher from Adventure, Samurai Kirby from Superstar, Checkerboard Chase from 64, Bomb Rally from Nightmare in Dreamland, Crackety Hack from Amazing Mirror, Smash Ride from Squeak Squad, Kirby on the Draw from Superstar Ultra, and Ninja Dojo returning from the original Return to Dreamland. This is so damn cool. The music when you're on the difficulty selection screens are remixes of each game's respective menus. The victory screens are all identical from their source games too, like the Kirby 64 award screen is exactly the same, yes! Listen, I've never been someone who's hard to please, okay? Anything remade from this franchise I think is the coolest thing. Seeing Egg Catcher show up after so long in HD, the music is remade, both Kirby and DDD have the baby chicks popping out of their mouths. This is peak Kirby right here. It's just a shame we don't see the chicks popping out of Meta Knight's masks or Waddle Dee's mouth. I mean, the anime shows that he can eat, so they could have put that in the game. And then the online mode in question is a separate entity entirely, Samurai Kirby 100, where you and 99 other Kirbys around the world see who can press the A button the fastest. You could, quite frankly, tell me these are all CPU players, and I couldn't tell you the difference. I don't know why this is online. I feel a stronger connection to Manager Magolor telling me stats. I was about to say that this was an incredibly dumb inclusion, but then I managed to get first, so now I would be upset if this wasn't here. In all of these editions, we did lose Scope Shot though. This is so sad. I did always like Ninja Dojo more, so I don't really feel the same pain, but kind of strange that they decided to get rid of one of them at all. Adding salt to the wound, the second Hal room now plays the Scope Shot title theme. Why? Why did Hal go for the throat on this one? Oh yeah, before I forget, they also added a third Hal room to the game that wasn't in the original. Dude, this company loves the Kirby franchise so much, it's wild. This is true love right here. Alongside all of the sub-games, Merry Magoland comes with 100 missions, and I mean, that's pretty refreshing. Usually the sub-games are just there for a fun little distraction and nothing more, but now there is a whopping 100 achievements to go for. Many of them are very basic. You beat all the difficulties, for example, do particularly well in some harder difficulties like catching 20 eggs in Egg Catcher level 3, and play each of the games with a specific mask, which, yes, there are unlockable masks in this game as well. This adds a lot of gameplay time to the 100% goal right here, because once you finish all 100 of these achievements, and you think you're done, stupid Magolor throws another 20 at you that are super tough. Tome Trackers level 3, winning this mode with 18 points, made me want to commit crimes. Completing all of these back to back took me about 3.5 hours, though admittedly, I did definitely surprise myself with some of these. Like one of these is to get at least 20th place in Samurai Kirby 100, and I hit first place on my second attempt, so yeah, you know what, I am gonna brag actually, I feel really good about that one. Merry Magoland, the happiest place on earth, would return and spend too much money there again. Look at it just sitting there in the background at the start of Nutty Noon now. I love it. It's like it's a real place. Oh yeah, can't really gloss over the mask thing. It's kind of a cute addition. For extra fan service, you can unlock the faces of a bunch of characters throughout the series by collecting these Merry Magoland tickets. It's pretty cute. I mean, definitely something to make co-op a little bit more interesting, but some of them also make noises. So getting to run through these levels as Kirby making masked DDD sounds is pretty cool. That's kind of fun. Fun fact, if you wear the Kind mask, you have a more powerful bubble attack underwater. The attention to detail in this game is nuts. There's a couple of deep cuts on the selection too, Drossia and Zero masks? Okay, that's cool. Getting to see newer renditions of Nago, Peach, and Choo Choo, that's nice, I like that a lot. Can't believe Dark Nebula is here. Old friend. I'm really crying in the club right now. And dude, Pick and Mine, are you serious? The Rick and Kind counterparts from Dreamland 3 that you saw on one screen each and that's it? I love this. Sadly, Koo didn't have a counterpart in that game, so Grayscale Koo instead. Suck it up, sport, you'll be fine. The only issue with this screen is that Yellow Kirby is just called Yellow Kirby now, and after Dream Buffet had the audacity to bring Kibi back into the spotlight, this will not stand. All right, the moment that many of you have been waiting for, spoiler time. What? Spoilers? Isn't this a 10-plus-year-old game? What could there possibly be to spoil in this current year? Well, listen here, idiot, you big Dumbo. You see the back of the box here? Magolor Epilogue, Brave and Extra Quest after the ending. There's new stuff. And I got thoughts. Hey, you know how Magolor betrays you at the end of the story and you banish him into the Shadow Realm? Yo, that's crazy. This is why Kirby fans everywhere have trust issues and thought Elflin was gonna stab you in the eyes in Forgotten Land. Well, Magolor Epilogue is here to let us know just what Magolor was up to after said banishment. With his outfit in tatters, Magolor wakes up in another dimension, similar to the chase levels from the main campaign. On your brief travel here, you run into a fruit fragment. You get told to collect more. Go. Gameplay-wise, Magolor does play quite differently than Kirby, sort of similar to how he played in the Star Allies guest star mode, but with a twist. Throughout the stages, you collect these magic spheres, and with them, you can upgrade all of your attributes, like all of them. the speed of your horizontal and vertical shots, the effectiveness of your shield, how much longer your specials will stick around, stuff like that. And while upgrading moves in like any game is inherently satisfying, you get the benefit of being able to grow longer chains during the gameplay. You see, you're not just collecting magic spheres by walking into them, you get them from defeating enemies, and get even more if you keep attacking them in a fast manner. And doing something like upgrading your trickery attribute benefits you because sometimes that will lengthen how long your chain could last without any activity. Me? Get up to my sneaky dirty tricks again? I would never. Unless no one is looking. Learning the level designs to chain the best combos and go for the highest points is really the name of the game here, and it is way more satisfying than I thought it was going to be. Typically, these extra modes like Meta Nightmare and DD Detour just play through the main game with a new character, and sure, it's not like visually we got anything crazy here with Magolor, but still, by having unique designs, sometimes pulled from the main game's chase segments, most times not, made for a consistently fun adventure for the roughly 2 hours it took to complete it. And even the bosses are more changed than I expected them to be. These aren't simply the main game bosses with the color swap, no. They also have new names. And based on said names, you can tell that these battles now have element properties too. It's pretty cool stuff. Or shocking stuff. Really just depends on the fight. And if you do your due diligence and pause the gameplay while you're in the battle, you can get a little bit of extra lore. This is the good stuff here. And when doing so, you can tell that all of these guys are working for a bigger bad guy. But wait a second. I thought Magolor was the bad guy. Who's badder than this guy? Well, once all of the fruit pieces are together, making a gem apple, yes, very important detail, Magolor then battles another Grand Doomer. Pretty cool. I mean, it's got some different attacks like the other bosses, nothing too special here, goes down pretty easily, and then this portal opens up. Dude, like, come on, man, like, what do you mean? We got a biblically accurate Wispy Woods here as the final boss? What is this? God, I love Kirby so much, dude. You see, why this is a thing is because the gem apple seed that you freed from beating the crowned Doomer immediately gets attached to the Master Crown, the thing that turned Magolor scary in the main campaign. So, simple math, you have a seed that will turn into a tree, combined with this source of evil, bam, monstrous tree god. And it's a pretty fun battle too, finally being able to use all of Magolor's skills against a unique boss fight that isn't simply a reskin of something that Kirby fought before. It's really satisfying. This one move that he does when he comes like crashing down on you and then will continue to go into the ground and then stare at you, this is a tree jump scare. But even still, bang bang boom, you take him out no problem, and once you're done, Magolor finds a conveniently placed sword. Well, isn't that nice? He then uses his powers to make it gigantic in size, has one final anime clash of power, and then slashes it in half, defeating it. As this franchise continues to dethrone another god. You know, typical Kirby things. But you may be asking, what's to become of Magolor after all of this? Well, thankfully, a new portal to the outside world opens up, and after wiping away a single tear, oh my god, poor baby, he jumps in for hopefully a brighter future. And if you pay attention to the credits images, you can see Magolor pops up in a new yet kind of familiar land alongside the Gem Appleseed. He sets up a shop in this brand new village to do some business, and just like that, Team Kirby Clash Deluxe and Super Kirby Clash have been injected into the canon. It took a few years, but now we know why. He was finally nice all of a sudden and dressed in green. Looks good on him too. I approve the new digs. See, man, what did I tell you? Nicest guy you ever met. You played Super Kirby Clash, right? He's like super nice in that game. It was just the crown that was messing him up. He's a great dude. In that game, if I remember correctly, he was like giving you really good things, right? That was helping you on your quest, but they also kind of required actual money. They were microtransactions. He's responsible for microtransactions. This guy's evil. Magolor Epilogue is awesome. It's a little annoying that it's locked behind playing the whole main game to get the new stuff, but considering the plot is based off of the endgame plot twist, I guess it makes sense. Leave it to Hal to add story closure to a spin-off in what is seemingly just a run-of-the-mill remaster. I think when directly compared to another remake, Superstar Ultra, that game provided more new stuff than Return to Dreamland Deluxe did, but Magolor Epilogue raises the bar for those post-adventure, alternate playable character modes. Can't wait for the next Kirby remake where you can play as the Dream Fork all of a sudden, because we have to know why it popped up in front of Kirby that one time. I have so many questions after Dream Buffet, man, I need them answered. Worth quickly mentioning the arena here as well. I mean, yeah, it does act the same way it always did, typical boss rush, but True Arena got some notable changes. Not only does it add the Magolor Epilogue fights, so you can now battle biblically accurate Wispy Woods with Kirby, but the Magolor Soul fight Not only does he move faster and hit harder than he used to, not only does he still utilize the same super ability attacks that he did before, but also he conjures up sand tornadoes and shoots from the mecha cannons. This is a scary fight. And if you haven't done this battle yet, you can thank me later for this information, because getting 21 fights in and dying to attacks that you didn't see coming, I would be furious and snap my tiny Switch cartridge in half. No thank you. Now you can tackle this with a steady mind. You're likely still going to be stressed out, but at least it'll be a little bit more steady. But with that all in mind, that wraps up the entire Kirby RTDLDX package. It's a good game. Are you surprised? This video is longer than my Forgotten Land one. I don't know why I'm like this. Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe is an excellent remaster. They took a great game and made it a lot better. That's all it needed to be. It's a new Kirby release. Of course it's good. Kirby's Extra Epic Yarn, also known as the life support that is keeping the Nintendo 3DS alive. For some reason. I'm sorry, but no, not extra epic. I think the question we're gonna be asking here is, why? Why does this exist? Didn't we all want the 3DS to die like a few years ago? The Switch is doing fantastically and will continue to do so for years to come, so the port of a nearly 9-year-old Wii game on a dying console, that just seems weird and pointless. Okay, so I am the Kirby guy, right? I guess that means that doesn't matter how pointless this game is, I gotta talk about it. I literally have no other choice. If you look back a few years ago, I already did a video on the original Kirby's Epic Yarn on Wii, and yeah, long story short, I thought the game was pretty fantastic. The game does lack the mechanics that make up a typical Kirby game, but what we still got here was a super charming adventure with an awesome art style. It wasn't just that the characters were made out of yarn and you can see through them, it was that the entire world was one giant arts and crafts project. There were so many arguments about this game being kiddie, and I mean, to be fair, the story narration is done as if it was like a father telling their kid a bedtime story or something like that, so yeah, it is incredibly childish, but it does fit the theme. But it didn't really matter though, because at the end of the day, you are still the pink puffball. You are still raising hell. It does not matter how you spin the plot. And need I remind you, the game feels like pants. And now with the power of the Nintendo 3DS, you can feel the world that feels like pants. And then when you're done, you can put it inside your pants. Why didn't they put that on the back of the box? That was so easy. Pants. So for those of you who are unaware of how this game works, it is a somewhat standard 2D platformer where instead of Kirby having his typical inhaling and copy ability mechanics, he now wields a whip made out of yarn to handle any obstacle that stands in his way. And for those of you out there who are aware of how this game operates, the first thing that you're probably noticing is, this looks a whole lot worse. I mean, to be fair, it was obvious that when making the jump to the 3DS, it was going to inherently look worse. The thing is though, when you have a game where one of its main selling points is the awesome art style, why port it to a console that's gonna pump out weaker results? You see, let's take a look at the original Luigi's Mansion. Now, should they have ported this to the 3DS? Probably not, but at the very least, it did look really good on the GameCube, and work was done to make sure it still looked good on the 3DS. It made that jump smoothly. With Epic Yarn though, don't get me wrong, it still does have that great art style, it's just a shame that it wasn't given a better opportunity to shine through. But of course, the big question whenever any game gets ported to another console is, what are the differences? What is different between this and the Wii version? And for as much as they added to it, they kinda took stuff out as well. Now firstly, I guess people complained that Epic Yarn, despite being designed to not include them, now has abilities akin to the series staple copy abilities. Certain enemies are just placed randomly throughout the levels and they're holding special hats. You unwrap the enemy, you get the hat, you get the ability. It's fairly typical Kirby flair, honestly. With one of them, you get the ability to craft yarn balls whenever you want. You can create a little tornado to suck in beads. That's kind of useful. You can wield a damn sword, making the act of destroying yarn-based creatures even more incredibly violent. And there's a couple more. And honestly, this kinda ruins the entire point of the original game. All they do here is make a game that's already considered very easy a whole lot easier. and there's no way to disable them. You just got to avoid using them if you want to play the game like the original. But if the difficulty is a concern for you, and I know it was for a whole lot of people, there is a brand new devilish mode. Oh no, that freaky devil scared me. Okay, so this mode was introduced with the intention of giving the players an option for a hard mode, which is really cool. Like, you actually have a life bar in this one. 5 hit points, and then if you lose all of them, you start the entire level all over again. Cool, I think that's what people wanted. But then there are these devil monsters that pop up every now and then, and like, they just suck. And no, not in the funny, haha, Kirby sucks, am I right? Kinda way. I know where you're going with that, commenters. They're just not good. You go about your way playing the level like normal, but now there's like an animated GIF that's floating around the screen at all times that can attack you occasionally. And you can attack it too. Honestly, it's totally recommended. Not just because their presence is annoying, which it is, but also because whenever they're on screen, it plays this really not great song, and it plays the entire time until you take them out, muting the original soundtrack, which is still fantastic. Now maybe it's because I've already played this game multiple times, but this doesn't feel like a challenge. It's just the standard game, and you now have a pest buzzing in your ear every 60 seconds. Alright, so we're gonna add a hard mode to Super Mario Bros. 3, right? So just play like you normally would, and then the sun is gonna be in every single level. That sounds great. Those are really the only two changes to the core gameplay, and neither of them would feel as unnecessary as they do if they didn't at least give you the option to mix and match for your preferred playstyle. Like personally, I want no abilities, no devils, and yeah, give me a health bar. That would be great. But now, during my playthrough, I just actively avoided devilish mode because that was annoying, and then I guess just used the abilities anyway because they are fun to use, even if they go against the intentions of the original game. The co-op was removed in this one too. The original worked fine for co-op with its slower pace, but now Prince Fluff just like occasionally pops up, gives you some beads, and flies away. Okay, that seems like a weird thing to remove. The 3DS can do co-op, so why not put in the time? That seems weird. The Wii version also had sections that utilized the Wii remote controller with motion control and pointer functionality. For any of the parts that use the motion controls, whatever, you just use the circle pad, that's fine, but you also use the circle pad for the pointer stuff too. Why? It's bad enough that we're not even using the 3D part of the 3DS anymore, on top of the lack of co-op, but now we're just gonna ignore the touchscreen too? Simply put, everyone, the original game is still here and it's still fun, but as a port, this had absolutely no love and no care put into it. This is a glorified ROM hack of the original Wii version that got compressed onto a 3DS cartridge. They did add some side content to this one, so that's pretty nice. The Wii version was pretty different for a Kirby game in the sense of it didn't have minigames. Typically, every Kirby game has some minigames, and now with extra epic yarn, this game falls right back in line with the rest of the franchise. In DDD Go Go Go, you run through stages, collect a ton of beads. It's pretty similar to the Poochie stages that were added in the 3DS port of Yoshi's Woolly World. They're more or less the same thing, honestly. And then there's Slash and Bead. Basically, you do the same thing once again, but they're slower paced, and you slash enemies with Meta Knight's sword instead. Both of these minigames are okay. They only have a couple of stages each, they don't last very long, they lock most of these modes behind main story mode progression. At least they have solid music, I'll give them that. Once again, they experiment with doing something kinda different with the King Dedede theme, with a really cool result, but that's all I got. And just when you thought this story couldn't get any better, there's no 3D, there's no touchscreen support, there's no co-op. Oh, but thank goodness, they do have Street Pass in the apartment creation mode. They even went ahead and made a bunch of new furniture that you can place in them. And you know, I guess sharing these with others in Street Pass would have been really cool years ago, but personally, I stopped taking my 3DS outside a long time ago, so I won't be able to take advantage of this feature. Oh, and this mode does use the touchscreen. Come on, man. The bottom line here is none of the changes made to this version of Kirby's Epic Yarn make it worth double dipping for if you've already played the original. Extra epic, huh? Well, that is certainly subjective. Now, if you've never played Kirby's Epic Yarn and don't have access to a Wii or Wii U to play the original, then sure, go on ahead, it's totally fine. It's just not the version that I would recommend, especially when the 3DS is nearing death. But it is worth noting that when you count up all of the physical games, the digital games, the virtual console games, the one Super Nintendo game that you can get only with the new 3DS, the one Game Boy Advance game that you can get only as a 3DS ambassador, all of that together, the Nintendo 3DS is home to 16 different Kirby games. That's insane, and that doesn't count the 4 DS games that you can play due to the 3DS's backwards compatibility. Kirby is a legend. Kirby's extra epic yarn did need to exist. Nobody's gonna dispute that. No one's really gonna go out and buy it. I don't think anyone really cares anymore. You know that Mario & Luigi Bowser's Inside Story remake that came out? That's now infamous for being one of the worst selling Mario games of all time. This is gonna have the same exact effect on the Kirby franchise, but it is what it is. At the end of the day, it's just one more game to add to the 3DS's super large lineup, and it'll just make the console look even better when you look back at it retroactively. What is neat though is that at the time of this video at the very least, this is the last game that Nintendo is publishing for this console, so it's kind of historic in that regard. Today marks a very special occasion. What you're watching right now, this very second, is my 200th episode. That's right, I've done this nonsense 199 times before this, and now it's time to celebrate. Copy abilities, the cornerstone mechanic of the Kirby franchise, right alongside excellent music and eldritch horror final bosses. Throughout the history of the Pink Puffball, one of the most exciting things with each and every installment is just what crazy new moves Kirby's gonna get access to, and how adorable the corresponding hat is gonna be. Oh my god, he looks like Link. Early on in the series, we went from really simple one-use abilities to full-blown movesets with Superstar and beyond, and then when we get to Forgotten Land, we have ability upgrades. That changed the whole game right there. And while many of the abilities from the traditional games do show up in the spin-offs, we got some spin-off exclusive abilities too. From the debut of abilities in Kirby's Adventure all the way to the Switch remaster Return to Dreamland Deluxe, we have a whopping 67 abilities to rank here. And boy, I can't wait to see what the 69th will be. That's gonna be an important moment in history. Also for this list, we're gonna be avoiding the likes of the Animal Friends and the Robobot Armor. There's the game-specific gimmicks like the Crystal Shard ability combos, the Super Suck from Triple Deluxe, and the Ravel abilities from Extra Epic Yarn. And there's gonna be no final boss items here either, so apologies to the Love Stick fans out there. We're not gonna be ranking the Love Stick. Not today, at least. If Kirby swallows it and he turns into a thing, it's valid for this list, and that's what we're gonna be ranking. Sounded a bit weird to say that whole thing out loud, but you know what I'm talking about. On to the list! Yo, Light really is the dumbest. The series is no stranger to abilities that only show up in a single game, but man, Adventure has a couple, like, literally only 2 rooms that are dark, oh no, and this ghost hides the key to making things brighter. It changes nothing else. It reveals a door that you couldn't see before, but you could still enter it while the room is dark, so... And then this ghost was to never be seen again, rightfully deserved. Kirby performs much better as an actual light bulb anyway. It's easy to mock copy, but it's actually got some forgotten context. You see, in Superstar, since it could be played in co-op for the first time in the series, it's really meant for player 2, the helper character, to have a more direct choice with what ability they want access to, since this was way before co-op Kirby games allowing for multiplayer player Kirbys, and that's kinda cool. That being said, this is one of the most redundant abilities of all time. Not even the cool laser beam thing you can do saves it. Very, very bad. Similar to Light, Mini is used to solve some contextual environmental puzzles in Amazing Mirror, and to its benefit, there are a lot more uses of it compared to Light. But all it does is make you small and you can't perform any attacks. It's terrible. You can't even bring it with you outside of the room that you get it in. Were the Amazing Mirror devs so incapable of puzzle design that they just had to put a ton of tiny corridors all over the place to justify 5 pixels of Kirby? It's really lame. Okay, so I'll give Metal some credit now. It is the first ability on this list to have more than one function. There's a ground pound, and you can roll down hills as a ball. So we got 2. We have 2 functions with this one. The idea of a metallic Kirby does have some potential, but ultimately it ends up being incredibly painful to use. You walk so slow, you fly so slow. You are invincible while you're metallic, and you can destroy basically anything in your path just by walking through them, so I guess that's kind of cool. But with all of the other downsides this ability brings, no thanks, I'll take my chances. Dude, even the flavor text is like, it's not perfect, okay? Well, if that ain't the understatement of the decade. Ball's low placement on this list isn't so much to do with its utility. You strip away Kirby's hands and feet, and he's suddenly able to go full blast, attacking everything in his path with his whole self at super fast speed, bouncing off the walls as you go. It could be kind of fun. It's low on this list because it's one of the only abilities that I genuinely dread the idea of ever trying to operate. Ball Kirby is a great idea for the spin-offs. Canvas Curse, Block Ball, Dream Buffet prove that Kirby just rolling around is fun. But in the context of a standard platformer where the level design isn't really built with the frantic nature of the ability in mind, yeah, I hate it. I hate it so much. I guess you're not supposed to go full speed all the time, and instead you precisely time your bounces, but then you don't even get to enjoy the fun of the pure chaos, and it's even worse. And the nominee for the ability that most people forget even exists, Paint. This is one of those classic screen nuke attacks. A bunch of flashy effects pop up on the screen, damage is done, bada bing bada boom, you move on. The power of Paint compels you. The issue though is that there are only 2 ways to get this ability, and that's from specific moves from a few bosses in Superstar in situations where you would likely not even think that this little paintball that the enemy throws off would give you anything special. Granted, it's not like it would be much higher on the list if there were more ways to get this ability. The series is filled with much more powerful feeling screen nukes anyway. Paint is just a fun little piece of trivia for Kirby Superstar and nothing more. That's it. That's all Festival is. It's a little more common to find than Paint, so that's nice, but quite frankly, it is only a step higher on the list because everybody dances now, and that's just kind of cute. Paint also gets a pass because it's an older ability, so they were still kind of figuring things out, I guess, but by the time Star Allies released, we already had way better screen nukes, like way better than this, so the comparison there doesn't really do Festival any favors. I'm upset this one is so low on the list. Ghost Kirby is such a cool idea. Suddenly you can take control of any enemy that you come in contact with. It sounds so cool on paper, but in execution, there are 0 instances where it's more beneficial to become an enemy and use their weapons rather than just taking their ability outright. And for the enemies that lack abilities, well, now you can just walk into other enemies. Sick. The implementation of Ghost is so half-hearted, and the real kicker here is that it's an unlockable for completing one of Squeak Squad's core collectibles, the Ghost Medal. So this is a reward. Once you do that, this Ghost guy randomly replaces one of the mini-bosses, and that's it. That's what you work towards. If you're working for an unlockable ability, it should at the very least make you feel powerful, and Ghost does the opposite. Oh, thank God, an ability where you finally get to do something. Okay, so with throw, you grab things, right, and then you can throw them. So, I mean, you can actually aim things in different directions instead of just straight ahead, so that's kind of nice, and they also give you a new standing animation in Squeak Squad. Oh boy, what a badass. You can gain the ability to sometimes add elemental attributes to a thrown enemy, but that really doesn't save it for me. Since there are a bunch of other abilities that basically incorporate a throw as part of their moveset, there is no surprise that this one is likely gonna stay in the past. Laser is definitely limited in that it mainly shoots a laser straight forward and that's it, but boy howdy, is it ever convenient that the levels right after getting the laser have so many gosh darn 45-degree angles to bounce those lasers off of. That's the stuff. Now, if you're actually looking to do damage with this thing, then don't get your hopes up. It's not good. Squeak Squad did add a charge option, and that kinda helps, but it's rarely ever something that I would choose as my primary form of attack. I just think bouncing it off of walls is kinda neat, cause I'm simple-minded. Yes, this just broke free of the bottom 10. Hear me out. Sleep's whole gimmick is being useless, so in that essence, it succeeds. Kirby pulls out a cute little sleep cap, he takes a nap right then and there. It's adorable, right? It's adorable. The only thing you can do is wake Kirby up faster. It would soon be able to slowly regenerate some health, that's nice. And in Forgotten Land, you can upgrade it so Kirby will pull out an entire bed instead. That's incredible. I just love that, in terms of challenge, it's often an ability orb that you actively have to avoid. I think that having an ability like that really balances out the entire ability pool. And also, in Battle Royale, they gave Sleep an actual combat moveset. You beat the crap out of opponents with a pillow, you slap a hat onto your opponent's head and force them to go to sleep, make them go night-night. It's amazing. It's still low on the list because, I mean, come on, you just go to sleep, but the people who say it's pointless, they're lying to you. I mean, like, I kinda get Balloon's inclusion. You know, Canvas Curse isn't a platformer where you have direct control over Kirby, so let's make an ability that can assist with some of the more vertical sections of the game. But it's bad though. It has some utility, but in general, it's just a massive hassle to use in like every situation. On its final inflation, it does do a little explosion of damage, and that's kind of helpful, but quite frankly, call it a miracle if you make it that far in the first place. With a backdrop, you grab the guy, and then you slam him. That's it. It's a very straightforward ability, and it does feel kinda powerful to pull off, but in grander situations when you're in a proper battle, it's never gonna be the ideal choice to go for. This is, like Throw, another instance of an ability that's not necessarily terrible, but as the series would go on, it would go away in favor of being combined with a different ability to make a more complete package. Much like Freeze Kirby gets some points alone for rocking the Ice Climber outfit. Let's get that right out of the way. The problem with Freeze isn't so much what it is, since it provides a perfectly functional close-range attack that turns enemies into ice blocks that you can then shoot away. It's nice. It's that, like Backdrop, it is now irrelevant, as it is the less good of the ice abilities, and it would become that later on. It's no surprise that ice would take the center stage going forward. It's actually a very similar story to... Man, I almost forgot burning was even a thing. I just assumed it was always fire, but nope. With this one, you become a fireball and shoot forward. That's the whole ability. It's certainly impactful, and it did show up in a lot more games than Freeze, being a prominent ability in Dreamland 2, 3, and 64, but yes, this would eventually get absorbed into Fire going forward, so the same story with these past three abilities, Backdrop, Freeze, and Burning. Not bad, but they all stay pretty low because who cares anymore, they're outdated. So Squeak Squad introduced this wild new gimmick where you're able to mix and rumble up different bubbles containing items and abilities within Kirby's stomach. Mechanically, cool. Practically, oh no, his poor tum-tum. So here we have the bubble ability, acting sort of like the copy ability of earlier, being able to transform enemies into a star obstacle or an ability outright that you're able to store in your stomach for later. Not immediately transforming into the ability that you capture makes this way better than copy, but also the bubble beam does some actual damage, so that's a genuine attack. Get some bonus points for not being trash, but ultimately it's just not as effective as like nearly every other ability in the game. A lot of copy abilities showed up in a modified way in Kirby's Dream Buffet, but in this wild multiplayer game, we got a brand new ability, Jelly. Probably easy to dismiss given how different this game is compared to the rest, and it likely won't be making a jump to a traditional Kirby adventure anytime soon, but just based on its effectiveness within the context of Dream Buffet, it's great. In a game all about quickly navigating through a ton of obstacles to outrace your opponents, getting the chance to completely bypass everything for a few seconds is a game changer. Plus, it's pretty cute. You're gonna be hearing me say this a lot more throughout this episode. Hey, now you can become a missile and just blow through the competition. As far as traditional Kirby goes, this only shows up in Amazing Mirror, where it really made the most sense. That game often had a lot more open-ended level design, so being able to just roam around and explode on impact really works in that context, and it's absolutely terrible when you're thrown into tighter corridors. But I do gotta shout out to Canvas Curse though, because angling the missile with the rainbow line that you draw, it's pretty satisfying. The best part of Stone Kirby is definitely not its utility. You turn into a big rock, you crash into the ground, and you usually just let gravity do the rest. Later on, in Return to Dreamland, they would give you a Stone Uppercut move, which does give the ability a lot more points, but come on now, we all love Stone for all of the references that you can become. Every time I get Stone, every single time, I gotta spend a couple minutes just spamming the move, seeing what character will show up next. The fact that Grill and Brobo from Superstar Stacker and Block Ball show up, I mean, come on now, that's incredible. Otherwise, it is useful, just not one that I really enjoy using. Kirby has died and become an angel. Pour one out for the good old Puyo. As Cupid Kirby, you can fly around kinda slowly and shoot one or a couple of arrows. Okay, it's not bad. In the games it shows up in, it is useful, but in the grand scheme of things, its movement options are really limited and outclassed by a similar bow and arrow ability that we'll see later on. The halo and little wing aesthetic is really cute, but not one that I'm really jumping to whenever it shows up. Dude, High Jump had one of the best glow-ups in the entire franchise. On its debut, it would let you jump really high. Woohoo! Certainly made for a great boss fight against Kracko, but the amount of times that you would genuinely want High Jump are slim to none. However, when it returned in Return to Dreamland, oh man, you suddenly got much better movement in the air, you can charge up your jumps now, you can cancel your jump into a super fast dive, it feels so much better to use. And the superhero cape on top of all of that really adds a lot to it, let's be honest. When Kirby jumped into the third dimension, we needed some brand new abilities that would work well with the new range of movement, and Drill allowing you to, well, drill underground to get secrets from these little dirt piles and do some damage along the way. It made perfect sense. Combat-wise, it is fairly unwieldy to use. Its main attack only works if you do a proper loop around an enemy while underground, and that's not the most effective option in your arsenal. You do have a nice little thing where you can kind of dive into the ground with your drill, and that does good damage, but once again, you do like an angled shot, not the most effective move all things considered. Navigation though, that's definitely the ability's strong suit, and luckily the game knows that. Drill is a blast to use when you have a lot of stuff that you gotta do quickly by going above and below ground at a fast pace. That's the best part. But when it comes to underground based abilities, I gotta give a lot more credit to... Dude, come on. Look at him. Animal Kirby is just, it's the cutest thing. When Kirby puts on this adorable little suit, not only is he able to dig underground, sometimes in glorious fashion, he also has an effective close combat attack with the Claw Swipe. It's a generally fairly straightforward ability to use, and since it only showed up in Squeak Squad, there is yet to be an opportunity to build upon Animal to reach a fuller potential, but I mean, come on, look at him! I almost want to put him higher because he's so damn adorable. Kirby can already fly, so you would think that Wing Kirby would be redundant, but the amount of movement options that you're afforded easily make this a really fun ability to play around with. Your wing flaps do damage, you can shoot feathers for short range attacks, you can dive bomb into the ground, all at a really fast pace too. This ability is crazy to use if you're really good at it. If you learn and properly utilize the wing ability, you can just blast through stages, leaving nothing but feathers in your wake. The more abilities that add to Kirby's in-air mobility, the better in my opinion. Oh hey, look at that. Think Wing Kirby, right? But a lot more mechanical. Here we have Jet Kirby. On top of also being able to infinitely fly and deal out decent damage at a close range, you also gain the ability to charge your thrusters for more long-range attacks, just nudging this one out a little bit above Wing, but both are very fun. Also, this has no bearing on Jet's placement on this list, but a special shout out to the Robobot form of Jet, some of the best segments in modern Kirby history. Wheel Kirby is absolutely iconic, there is no doubt about that. You become a wheel. Of course it's iconic. Being able to rush through anything in your path, practically invincible to boot, is obviously super powerful. I'm a big fan of the few speedrun segments where you have to outrun a fuse or whatever the game throws at you by perfectly timing your jumps and your turns. It's so cool, and who doesn't love an awesome backwards hat? It's a very difficult ability to handle for boss fights, but in general, this is a great reliable ability, only this low on the list, as I much prefer abilities where you actually do things, though the wheelie rider option that this ability provides you is very, very sick. Suplex is a fantastic adaptation of the close combat abilities that were earlier on in this list, throw and backdrop. It's not just a matter of feeling like you're on an absolute killing spree with all of these crazy flips and punches that you pull off. Man, by the time you get to them, they're already dead, and they're just your plaything. It's so cool. One problem though, when it came back in Star Allies, they removed the sick tan that used to give you in Superstar. That's unfortunate, but hey, still a great close combat ability. Let me get a yeehaw in the chat, it's time to cowboy up with some Whip Kirby. This is a great long-range ability where its strong suit comes from its grappling capabilities. Not only can you lash enemies endlessly, but you're also able to grab a hold of items from afar, and more importantly, enemies from afar that you can then slam into the ground. Oh man. Throw in a really cool overhead move with some great range, Whip is definitely awesome for many situations. It's just, compared to the rest of the abilities in the game, it's one that I never really gravitate to over others, since most of the moves that you perform are at a standstill, and I don't know, I just prefer to be a little faster, that's a personal thing. Man, similar to High Jump, the glow up for magic really shouldn't be understated. In Amazing Mirror it was... whatever. Another form of the classic screen nuke, but you pull something random out of your hat and then you move on with your day. This would be a whole lot lower on this list if that was it. However, when it reappeared in Squeak Squad, oh my god, they gave it an actual moveset. And a giant hat. Throwing out cards, you got a giant clown head, friggin' doves. And you can still pull tricks out of your hat? This is a god tier ability, honestly. This became such a good option in this game, only brought down by how bad its debut was. But you know what? Shoutouts to the little Kirby that lives inside the hat. I love him. Cutter has the distinct honor of being one of the few abilities that has appeared in every single traditional Kirby game, while also always being good. Not great, but good. When it was purely a projectile that you would throw a boomerang blade out and wait for it to come back, it was fine. Never the optimal choice, but I did dig Kirby throwing his entire face off in 64. Once they revamped this ability and gave it a bunch of brand new close combat moves, getting to slash the blade around like crazy, including essentially his recovery move from Smash, it became so much better. But still, it doesn't really do anything better than the other options that are available. Though the addition of throwing buzzsaws in Forgotten Land definitely makes it a little bit more compelling. Big apologies to all of you arachnophobes out there, but it's time for Spider Kirby. As expected, everything is about shooting webs. You place a big web in the background to jump from, you encapsulate enemies in webs to trap them and slowly starve them for air and then they die, and even kick or slam them when they're in their webs to add some insult to injury. Movement-wise, it's great. Attack variety, really good. But in terms of actually using it in combat, the moves are pretty weak. The only major downside, to be fair, but enough for it to not be higher up on the list for me. Also, if you hate spiders, this is probably at the bottom of your list, and that's totally valid. I always really enjoyed Bell Kirby based on it just being all about blasting your enemy's eardrums. That's a great premise. Slamming down with these giant bells is simply really effective in close combat scenarios, and it's really fun being able to pull out some long-range moves as well with these massive sound waves or this big sound barrier move. It's surprisingly versatile. Its only downside is that, outside of the Twin Tinker attack that you can pull off while running, moves come out relatively slowly, so for a boss rush, great call. In most other instances though, you've got better choices, but hey, the bell is cute, and like I said before, I am really biased with the cute hats. The fact that cleaning isn't at the bottom of this list is a damn miracle. Its debut in Dreamland 3 was terrible. Stand still, swipe your broom, that's it. It was so bad. The versatility in that game came from combining it with your animal friends, but even then, it was a mediocre showing. So, color me incredibly surprised when it returned in Star Allies, and it became amazing. Not only do you move while sweeping now, adding great mobility to the base moveset, but the entire moveset brings in the animal friends from Dreamland 3, replicating what their moves were from that game, essentially resulting in massive fan service for that one game in particular. Also, the bandana allowing Kirby to cosplay as a mother who is tired that you never clean your damn room really seals the deal. It's moves like cleaning and magic that really give me hope for the return of other abilities like Animal and Metal to return in spectacular fashion, because they've shown they can do some great things with some once terrible moves. Kinda like this one. I've made it no secret that I was not really a big fan of Star Allies, but credit where it's due, it took the stupid paint ability and made something awesome with Artist. It may only be halfway down the list, but it's still a great ability to use. Being able to swing your paintbrush around like a sword is just as good of an attack as any other close range one, but it's all about the unique artist quirks, like painting something to summon it in real life, including a fat Kirby. Who can ever say no to fat Kirby? And also being able to carve a stone statue to swing that around too for massive damage. Those two alone really make this ability shine. And the stone carving in particular, it is so damn powerful. It's an excellent move for the game's boss rush, and even against other players in Fighters 2. Star Allies got a lot of things wrong, but I will never disrespect the developer's passion to go back to paint and cleaning and really give those abilities some life. It may just be an umbrella, but Parasol has a surprising amount of versatility. In more recent games, you have a pretty decent amount of attack options, with swinging and twirling it like a sword. You're also able to grab enemies and make them suffer as well. Love that. The constant suffering for any ability. Man, they're gonna regret being in my path. And as far back as the earlier games where Parasol first debuted, it was satisfying just being able to properly utilize its defensive attribute to deflect dangerous objects that are falling from above. This is one of the most unassuming abilities in the franchise, and while it's never outstanding, it's always way better than you would expect it to be. Alright, listen, I know we put Festival really low, so you probably expected all of the Screen Nuke moves to be low on the list as well, but I mean, come on now. Cook Kirby puts on a chef's hat and boils his enemies to death in a delicious stew that then becomes tasty food items. It may only do one thing, but damn it if it doesn't do it well. At this place on the list, one might even say it's medium well. Sorry about that. It kind of feels like they were desperately trying to make Needle a not bad ability. Initially, you would stop all progression and cause damage to anything that walks into you, even if they're on the walls or the ceiling. How terrifying. Ooh, but hey, okay. In return, let's give it a spin dash. Okay, you're speaking my language. You can shoot the needles out of it too? Okay, we're getting better. And then, the only reason it's this high on the list is in Forgotten Land. Dude, it's over. Now you essentially become a massive Katamari, able to constantly roll around, latching enemies onto yourself as you go, and it's awesome. And when you upgrade the ability, you add projectiles into the fray. You become unstoppable. One of the designs is also the reference to the Kirby 64 needle ability, where you just have a bunch of stuff like a pencil coming out of you. Love that. Needle became an ability that was a constant joy to use. If Forgotten Land didn't exist, Needle would be much, much lower. A telekinetic-based Kirby ability really sounds like it would be the coolest thing in the world, and that is where ESP comes in. No doubt inspired by Ness's moveset in Smash Bros., once Kirby dons this sick sideways hat, not backwards hat, sideways still cool though, he can perform this little instant transmission teleportation, you can summon a big ball of energy that explodes on command, and that's it, sadly. For what you have access to, it is a good ability, and its one attack is pretty strong, but it really is just one attack. There's a great counter attack also, but for a modern ability, you're provided a surprisingly limited amount of options. So it's effective, but generally pretty uninteresting, unfortunately. God, what a chaotic ability Circus turned out to be. Who would have thunk it? The options you have available to you with this moveset are wild, pulling out all of the stops from flaming bowling pins to trampolines to balloon animals. It's crazy, man. Circus Kirby was always a blast to use, even if it's a little bit too chaotic for its own good. Like, this isn't an ability that you would choose if you're looking to really hone your craft for your next speedrun or deal the most amount of damage per second for a boss fight. But in terms of pure fun factor, this is undoubtedly one of the best. The Circus Tent Hat has a mustache for crying out loud. I love him. But you want to talk about chaos, oh baby, Bomb Kirby, this is where it's at. Being able to summon bombs out of thin air and then just immediately be throwing them all, just non-stop with no cooldown in between, I love it so much. For long range, you're covered, easily. This is always great against bosses if you want to attack from a distance. But close range? Well, if you time it right, you can pin a bomb onto an enemy's head and watch their life flash before their eyes before they explode. Kirby is an absolute monster and I am here for it, and the corny blue hat, I love it so much. This little thing, this is the symbol of disaster. So this is kind of cheating. At the time of this video, Return to Dreamland Deluxe isn't out yet, but I mean, come on, look at this is sick. Mecha Kirby is the first ability to ever be introduced in a remaster. They added nothing to Nightmare in Dreamland and Superstar Ultra. This is a historic moment right here. You got a powerful looking dash attack similar to the Tinker Melody ability from Bell, and also a chargeable laser. Looks like that'll do a lot of damage. I really don't need to play the game to know that this will be a lot of fun to use. Kirby's mechanical now, and he's ready to kill. If this ability turns out it sucks and it's in the low 60s after this, I apologize. Archer is not only a better version of Cupid, but it's just a flat out great ability to use. Not only do you maintain your standard speed since you don't have wings to worry about and you're not flying anymore, but the versatility with your shots make this a constantly powerful ability to wield. You can angle your shots, attack with your bow, you shoot multiple arrows at once while you're in midair. It's all so satisfying, and there's even an exclusive guard with this ability. While most times you just sit there and deflect some damage, now you put up some camouflage to duck behind. Cupid is cute, I'll give it that, but Archer is so much better. Kirby is clearly no stranger to elemental abilities, so it's kind of surprising that it took so long for water to show up. But man, when it did, it showed up in style. It is such a great time. Not only are its moves really useful in battle, but it's also the perfect amount of flashy. I love being able to summon a deadly rainbow all around Kirby. That's so dangerous. Taste the rainbow. But also, mobility-wise, being able to surf over water, create tidal waves at the push of a button, and create an endless fountain under you that does a bunch of good damage. This is one of the best multifunctional abilities in the franchise, and it is a constant pleasure. But if we're to be a little controversial here, maybe this is a slightly less popular opinion, but Poison, I think, perfected the water concept. Some of the moves basically overlap between the two, but there's a lot more variety in terms of attack options with Poison, as some of the poison will linger to create constant damage. The Poison Cloud is used for a couple of nifty wind-based puzzles later on in the adventure, and there is a sick close combat counter, which honestly really doesn't fit the Poison idea a whole lot, but it's still really cool, and one of the moves is, it's called the Tilted Toxic Tower, and Tilted Tower is one of the locations in Fortnite. I had to mention it, regrettably. Poison's good though. You could make the argument that any of the screen nukes don't deserve to be this high on the list, but I mean, come on. Crash Kirby puts on a Pope hat and then explodes, killing everything in sight. It has to be this high on the list. Later on in the series, when you gained the ability to charge it, that made things even better. And then hey, in Forgotten Land, the final upgrade allows you to stop time. This is such a powerful move. You only get to use it like once, but for that one time, it's awesome. But okay, yeah, sorry, not sorry. Mike is still the best screen nuke there is. I don't really think there's a debate on that one. For one, you can use it 3 times, so that automatically makes it better. A single mic usage may not do as much damage as a single Crash usage, but yelling into a microphone in 3 different ways, the final one being a big ol' Testo, is always one of the best parts of any Kirby game that it's in. And also, similar to Jet, this has no bearing on the ranking, but I gotta give a special shout out to the Robobot form of this ability because it really fleshes out what a sound-based ability is capable of. And Robobot is a very good game. Here we go, finally the ability that Burning got thrown into. Fire was introduced in the same game as Burning, but you were only able to spit fire in Adventure. But starting with Superstar, when the merger happened, we also got a bunch of new movement options into the mix. Getting to be in control of fire in so many different ways, it became a recipe for success whenever you use it. And funnily enough, the Fireball part that was Burning before is my favorite part of Fire, but no longer being restricted to that one move really makes this great to use all around. Hell, back in Superstar, you can even set yourself on fire. You gotta respect the dedication to your craft. Kirby with a gun, baby! What sounded like a meme for the longest time finally became a reality in Forgotten Land, and what a debut it had. Ranger Kirby is so much fun to use, being able to aim at anything on screen, charge up a shot for extra damage, and dude, the dodge where Kirby immediately will unload on the enemy that you just dodged from, this is such a killer moveset. There are no new movement options afforded to you, and in all honesty, it's not even all that flashy. Well, until you upgrade to the Space Ranger at least, that is supremely flashy. But not every good ability needs to be fancy. Kirby now carries that thing on him at all times, and I, for one, would be very afraid if this were to approach me. Man, and now Kirby can become a ninja? Of course it was gonna be good. Now we have Ninja Kirby out here rocking a katana, he can throw kunai, you can create a smoke screen, cling onto walls and wall jump, do a sick drop kick. Dude, there's like no way you can play as Ninja Kirby and not feel super cool. That's its main job description. In Superstar, it would even turn you purple. That's just an awesome look. This is one of the few abilities out there where it feels like you can go on a constant tear against enemies with a barrage of unique moves and it never once gets old. Plus, again, it kinda goes without stating, but ninjas are always awesome. When you think of iconic Kirby abilities, Sword may be the first thing that comes to mind. It is the definition of iconic. It's the Link hat, right? It's totally because of the Link hat. It's not all about just slashing your sword to attack in front of you. You get a sick spinning attack, an upward slash, a downward spike. The in-air sword spin is always reliable. Every move flows into each other beautifully. There is never a situation where Sword Kirby doesn't work. Plus, it always leads to the awesome Meta Knight encounters, and those sword-on-sword battles will always be some of the franchise's best. But yeah, I'm sorry, maybe this is another controversial opinion, but Spear still wins in the ability featuring pointy thing contest. It's potentially an unpopular opinion, but quite frankly, just on the basis of Spear having a longer range than Sword, makes it the better of the two in my opinion. And that's not even factoring in the cooler downward spike, being able to toss multiple spears at once, and dude, the Spear Copter, are you kidding me? Of course, like objectively that's cooler. Objectively, Sword is better in a more general sense, but maybe it's because Spear is newer and I just haven't gotten sick of it yet. Between the two, I'm gonna go with Spear every time. I'm sorry. However, man, leave it to Star Allies of all Kirby games to take the Spear concept and just make it better with staff and like it not get enough recognition for it. The range is even longer, you have a pole jump now, stabbing like crazy from midair is great. This is the best form this ability style has seen yet. Just the entire notion of having a long pointy thing, whether it be ended with a sharp object or just a big old ball, it is incredibly fun to use no matter how you spin it. But it is also kind of neat that this is also one big Goku reference. Not the Dragon Ball one, the Journey to the West one. I really hope Staff returns in a future Kirby game. Sword, once again, definitely iconic, God bless it, but Staff takes the cake. Similar to Spider, I get it, I hate Beetles as much as the next guy, but I will be damned if Beetle Kirby isn't one of the most fun abilities to use. Having a close combat move that has a solid upward attack isn't new at this point, and you can even swing your horn around rapidly like a sword, but damn it, you can stab your enemies with the hook and seismic slam them into the ground. That is one of the most badass moves ever conceived for this franchise, and maybe ever. And you can even fly around with your little beetle wings. It's adorable. You know what? They may have made the entire beetle species just for this ability, and I'll allow it. I really like this. I've always been a fan of electric powers in whatever game includes them, so while I assume I like Spark Kirby more than most, I do admit that's because I have a major bias. Something about simply encapsulating yourself in this big ball of electricity to zap all of your enemies to the extreme, I love it. But really, this became a true favorite of mine once you were able to shoot sparks above and below you with ease, as well as charge up your electric beam. It becomes so powerful. I'm sure a lot of people hate the fact that you charge up by mashing the D-pad or, God forbid, shake the Wii remote in return, but that's because that's how you conduct static electricity, man. That constant friction, come on now. Kirby is based in realism. But arguably, this one shouldn't even have its own unique spot on the list because it is very similar. Plasma Kirby is, like, maybe a little bit better than Spark Kirby. Quite frankly, I expected Plasma to disappear over time as Spark took over a lot of the same moves, and that's just what the modern games do. A very similar fate to Burning and Freeze. But in Star Allies, nope. Plasma returned for some reason instead of Spark. It's kind of just Green Spark in that game, and most of the moves are missing, but we do have this cool dash move that's like Pikachu's Smash Recovery, and I like that a lot, so yeah. Still fun, but really a negligible difference between these last two, to be honest. Utility-wise, I always felt like Hammer Kirby was very similar to Sword, but just a lot more powerful. And yeah, that's all it needed to be this high on the list. The Hammer Uppercut alone is enough to justify this placement. It absolutely decimates anything it comes into contact with. You bring this into the boss arena and that's it, it's over, you won. And considering how rare this ability was, it always felt special when you got your hands on it, which really adds to its appeal. No other ability, in my opinion, matches Hammer in terms of sheer power, and I will always love it as a result. Making a copy ability out of Kirby's Smash Bros. Moveset is such an obvious decision that I'm amazed it hasn't shown up in more games. Much like its inspiration, this is just an amalgamation of already existing moves, like the Final Cutter and the Hammer Swing, combined with some new close combat moves like the Jab and the In-Air Spin. It's just the Smash moveset. You don't get access to it a whole bunch, but whenever you do, it is so much fun. And considering it brought Master Hand as a boss in a traditional Kirby game, like, listen here, Sakurai has never made it shy that he lets his biases shine with the Kirby franchise, and I'm okay with that, because if it gives us awesome stuff like this, I am a-okay with that. This needs to appear in more games. On their debut, I'll be honest, I much preferred Freeze Kirby to Ice Kirby, but similar to Fire, once their moves merged and we got a ton of new attack options, including this in-air ice spin that you can pull off and then go right back to ice skating along, this move skyrocketed for me. You got the range with the ice blowing, you can continue to freeze enemies and shove them into the distance without losing much, if any, momentum, and once again, ice skating the whole time? You see this pink puff skating towards you, you can run, but you won't make it very far. Opinions on Leaf tend to be all over the place, so I have no doubt that I like this way more than others, but to put it simply, I believe that Leaf is the best elemental styled ability this series has ever seen. You can shoot the leaves like they're the kunai from the ninja ability, but they spin around you now. You get this leaf uppercut like Hammer, but it's not as powerful, it just looks kinda nice. You have this little leaf spin like Tornado. It's a combination of a bunch of different moves with just enough different to make it one of the most versatile attack options in the games that it shows up in. Also, when you dodge, you like jump into a little leaf pile, and that's adorable. I would do the same thing. Far and away, the best melee ability the traditional Kirby games has ever seen, Fighter. It's one thing to simply have a handful of really cool looking moves, but everything you can pull off with this one, in this dozen-plus moveset, feels incredibly powerful, and it is so easy to chain moves together, putting you on a constant path of destruction. Similar to Ninja in that regard, but I mean, look at that headband. There's even a Hadouken-like move that you can pull off, either by a basic button charge if you want to be lame, I guess, or you could do the command input like an actual Hadouken. Suplex, throw, and backdrop all walked so Fighter can run full speed and kill everything in sight. But, damn it, I'm telling you, man, you put Wrestler Kirby in the next mainline game, we're looking at an absolute game changer here. Currently, it's exclusive only to Fighters 2, but man, it really is the entire close combat idea perfected. You have all of the moves that chain together like in Fighter, but there's a whole lot more grappling involved, much like suplex and backdrop. You can flip your opponents into the air like crazy, give them these wild suplexes. It's probably nonsensical to put such a relatively niche ability so high on this list, but I'm telling you, it doesn't really help that not many people played Fighters 2, but I'm telling you, I gotta go with my heart on this one. If you smell what the pink puff is cooking. Tornado can take a bit of time to get used to. Timing your button holds to move higher in the air, it can be a little tough sometimes to get that right. But man, you really do just become an invincible whirlwind of destruction that's hard to compete with once you figure it out. And when it was all about just spinning from left to right, it was really good, but then they added these angled tornado shots that you can do at will in returns, and then in Forgotten Land, in a 3D space, it's even more destructive. It's insane. No matter what game it's in, it is arguably one of the most overpowered abilities in the entire series. Only this low on the list, only because I think the higher up ones are a little bit more fun to use. And just like that, we're finally at the top 5, the final 5, and if you're astute to this franchise, you have a good idea of what's going to be included in these final 5, but hey, for your predictions, place them down below. Maybe the ordering may not be what you expect. Who knows? It's quite the mystery. Let's go on to it. Beam Kirby is easily the most consistent ability in this franchise that I always adore using in every single game that it's in, dating all the way back to its debut in Adventure. Hell, it's the first ability in that game, you can't get much earlier than that. Simply having a nice swinging beam of energy destroy anything within its range is great in many instances, but once again, once this moveset got expanded, and now you can charge the beam, utilize the new command grab, and the mid-air beam blast move, it really hit legendary status for me. It is simple, but very powerful. I know this is higher than many of you would expect, but beam will always hold a special place in my heart. But I mean, duh. Of course UFO is going to be the better version of that. What initially began as a super cool beam and laser combo with the ability to fly, the more games UFO would show up in, the more varied the moveset would become, making it constantly joyous to use, only made more special due to how rare it is. In Adventure, it typically was relegated to hidden rooms in only a few stages, it barely shows up in Amazing Mirror and Squeak Squad, and it's locked behind an amiibo or 100% completion in Planet Robobot. That's it. Much like Hammer, it may not be common, but whenever it's here, it's incredible. Who gave this puffball a medical degree? There is no reason for this to exist, but damn it, I am so happy that it does. Similar to Artist and Circus, Dr. Kirby is another one that practically just encompasses the simple concept of chaos. Throwing pills like your Doc Mario from Smash is the most boring part of this moveset. You can slam people in the face with a noteboard, spray random medicine into the air, and, my favorite part, pull out an entire science kit to come up with a random concoction to do. I don't know, man. It's literally random. There's no telling what the psychopath is coming up with in his lab. If you're planning to be well thought out with your battle strategies, maybe Doctor isn't the one for you. But just the sheer insanity of this all even existing, it is Planet Robobot's pride and joy, and I beg and pray that this gets more time to shine in the future. Sorry ESP with your sideways cap, Yo-Yo Kirby with the backwards hat wins easily every time. That's the best part of Wheel, and it's the best part of Yo-Yo. But hey, who put a little boo-boo on this guy's cheek? I will kill them. The range of this ability is insane, like, every move does immense damage to any enemy within like 3 to 4 feet range around you, whether it be your spinning dash move, simply spinning the yo-yo, or doing the super sick upward spin. Oh, that's so cool. The outlandishness of a yo-yo being this ridiculously overpowered should really make Ness and Mike Jones proud, because 1 second you could be going in, spinning plastic and string a-blazing, and the next, you could be taking a casual stroll and walking the dog. And yes, the ability did go up a few points just for that part alone. Arguably the most fun ability the franchise has to offer, but sorry, my bias can't help but shine here for number 1. It only appears in 2 mainline Kirby games, and quite frankly, I don't care. Mirror is easily my favorite ability that has ever existed, and likely will ever exist. This is the perfect combination of usefulness and utility with outright great flashiness. From the swing of your magic wand to the handful of moves where you duplicate yourself, and even the reflecting shield has some extra pizzazz that you don't see in any other moves. Turning an incoming attack into a star and boomeranging it back to the enemy, it's perfect. The best part, all of the moves are also really powerful. There are no crazy movement options that are added to your arsenal, but hey, you have a new sliding run animation that's really cool to look at. There is really nothing I would change with this ability, like not a single thing. The only thing holding Mirror back is its lack of appearances, but it's not about quantity, it's about quality, and you can't get more quality than Mirror. And with that, that is my Kirby ability tier list. Thank you all so much for watching. It felt very cool that my 200th episode just happened to take place in the same year as Kirby's 30th anniversary. You know, may not be the grandest celebration of all time, but still pretty fun to talk about. Never a bad time to talk about the entire franchise. Just remember, if you disagree at all with any of the ability placements on my lists, that's your problem. It's a personal ranking list. I can't help that. That's what opinions are. But one thing we can likely all agree on though is that for the most part, any Kirby ability is good fun no matter how you spin it. Which does kinda negate the entire idea of a ranking video, but whatever, it's too late now. On to 200 more episodes of me.